Call the town council meeting to order. Let's begin with roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Romack? Here. Councilmember Pallavi?
Here.
Vice Mayor Klovstad?
Here.
Mayor Zabriskie?
Here.
And Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty.
Before getting to the public session, I need to report out a closed session we just had. We had 3 items. The first one, conference with real property negotiator on price and terms, and there is nothing to report on that. That was on parcel number 1944068. Another conference on real property negotiations, again, price and terms, was for 10257 West River Street, and there is nothing to report on out on that. The third one was a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. The litigation is Arseneth et al. Versus JM Manufacturing et al. We do have reportable action. The council unanimously agreed to defend the litigation, to defend the town in the litigation. So those are the 3 closed items. Is there any public comment on them? Seeing none, we're ready to move into the public session. Before we get to general comments, I wanted us to take a moment to remember former councilman and resident Bob Drake, who passed away this last June. Born in Colton, spent most of his life in law enforcement. He was one of the original council members for Truckee when it incorporated, and he served 8 years on the council before also serving on the Nevada County Board of Supervisors. He was described as being big physically, and he had a big personality, and he was outspoken. But he cared deeply about Truckee and did a lot to make this town a better place. And the one anecdote I recall about him was he was also a prominent cast member in the Follies, where he played, his name was Bob Drake, he played Bob Dog in the plays, and Bob Dog was a role that was supposed to be he himself. His only prop was a dog bowl. And that was because he had his lines all written out inside the dog bowl. So he didn't have to memorize a thing. I would ask that we just take a short moment of silence in memory of Bob Drake. Thank you. Now we can get on with our public meeting, and we're going to begin with the opportunity for general public comments, which means comments on anything that is not on the agenda for tonight. And if anyone would like to make public comments, I'd appreciate it if you'd go over to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have the clock set up? Okay, so we have a clock to time you. Is there anyone who would like to make a general public comment?
He was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Ketch, yeah, hit the button.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very well. Please go ahead.
My name is Emily Cashton. West Reed was dedicated, accepted, and incorporated into the Nevada County road system in 1924. Unfortunately, due to many document errors, the county removed it when they abandoned East Reed in Lakeview subdivision. This was discovered by the tax assessor's office. Easily available documents in the tax assessor's office and the Board of Supervisors identify that this road was a public road and was to be inherited upon incorporation and be maintained and receive snow removal. What occurred was also a trenching issue down West Reed in which the encroachment permits were not followed by policy to be restored, issued by Mr. Wilkins. This led to homes being damaged and flooded. The Mevies, the Shocks, the Freefelds, the Parkers, the Santos. Then there was a project above the subdivision by Robert Montano, and Mr. Wilkins chose not to have an encroachment permit, which has led to more homes being flooded. The Garibaldis, Mr. Wilkins, the Crawfords, the DeFazios, in their living rooms and their bedrooms. We put a petition, Mr. Polvey, before the council on May 23rd and would like to have that heard to identify these issues. They're documented. We are hoping you will. We understand this is through independent counsel, but we also want to let you know that the grand jury is also reviewing this, the Nevada County DA, the state attorney general, and another counsel. We are hoping you will find it within yourself to allow the public to present to this council that this road was inherited upon incorporation, is to be maintained and receive snow removal. I presented some signatures today for the people that are supporting this petition, and I got them really quick because everybody's on vacation. But that's one of the things that this council has asked, so I'm presenting that today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Cashton. Are there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a public comment? Okay. In that case, we'll move on to presentations. Let's see. Beginning with, it'll be the presentation from Steve Tashara. Oh, there you are. And this will be a presentation on the Eastern Placer County Incorporation efforts.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Hello, Member Henderson. Staff and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Steve Teixeira, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Eastern Placer Future, which is a public benefit nonprofit corporation that is exploring the opportunity to incorporate North Tahoe, and I'll describe that in a little bit. With me is my colleague on the committee, Andrew Ryan, who will actually do the presentation of our PowerPoint. We have a website, easternplacerfuture.org. We also have some yellow cards in the back if you're interested in more information. We particularly appreciate this presentation because, in my personal view, two towns next to each other can have a lot of synergy. There's a lot of things we could potentially do together. You've done some good work with Placer County. I'm excited about the library, potentially, the regional library. So there's lots of things we could do at the local level to work together. This is not about our dissatisfaction with Placer County in any way. It's simply about the fact that, and Andrew will show you this, District 5 is 77% of the land area of Placer County. Every time there's a census, in order to keep the population of each of the 5 supervisorial districts equal, our boundary keeps moving to the west. And it goes down to about Newcastle now. And so This is an issue for us because as the county grows significantly on the western end, that's where their attention and focus is. Right now, we're lucky to have a supervisor who actually lives on the North Shore in Tahoe City. Once Cindy is no longer our supervisor, that's probably the last supervisor that we'll have that lives in our area. And she's been a huge champion for us. So without further ado, I want to invite Andrew Ryan up to the podium to do the presentation. And then I understand after the items on this section of the agenda, if there are any council questions, we could ask them in the limited time that you have. We know you have a busy agenda. So again, thank you for your time. Andrew Ryan.
Thanks, Steve. Hello, everyone. Andrew Ryan.
You should be good to go on there with the thing. It should be
Okay.
set.
Okay, so there's our nice picture of North Tahoe. So who are we is kind of one of the questions we hear often, and we're a local group of concerned citizens. That's our list of names there. I won't read those, but that's the core executive committee that's been pushing this along for a couple of years. And we're exploring incorporation. What does it mean to have local governance, and what are those benefits and challenges that we might need to better understand? So as everyone knows, we all have a ski bum origin story. We all came here from somewhere for something, and usually that was a week or a day, and we ended up staying for a lifetime. And I think that's the driving mission here, is that it's a wonderful place where we live. It should be enhanced. It should be maintained well. We should have resilient communities. We should ensure access. So can we achieve those goals more effectively through local governance? So that's kind of alludes to what Steve was mentioning. And for all you council members there, can you imagine a district that large that you'd have to cover? So as Steve mentioned, it's about 76% of the land area of Placer County and roughly 20% of the population. So when that census comes in every 10 years, usually what we can do on Lakeside, the best we can do population-wise is to not shrink. So a good year for us with a census is to not shrink. So as the West Slope grows and people choose to live there and move there, our voting power gets diluted, our voice gets diluted, and our priorities sometimes get ratcheted down. And it makes sense. Placer County's got a $1.4 billion budget. They have to do priorities that serve the county. And as loud as we look for attention in North Lake because of the demands and needs and challenges we have with being seasonal in a high tourism area, the county's got a lot of demands as well. So that limited local representation, what would it look like if we had local representation? So why explore incorporation? At a basis there, it's not the details of what incorporation could mean. It's not the details of what policy we might set, what code we'd change. It's really who should be making those decisions ultimately. And should those decisions be centered within the community? And what would that mean for us? Highlights of that are we'd have our own elected officials, much like town of Truckee, and we often look this way for guidance and inspiration as seeing local governance. Could we improve the transparency of reporting? Our needs in Tahoe don't rise to the level of being a line item on a budget when you have such a big county. So through a smaller government, could we better see how we're spending our money and make better decisions? And that leads to local knowledge. We all know how to get around our communities the best. We know the needs of our community. So bringing some of that local knowledge can help. So why now? Well, as Steve mentioned too, it's a good time. We have a local supervisor. We've got a committed core group of folks. We have representation on LAFCO, and we're working collaboratively with the county and look forward to working and strengthening that. So the little quote there at the bottom is, when you need a shade tree, the best time to plant that tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. So for us, the best time is right now to explore incorporation. So we've been busy, and I would note we're all volunteer. There's not a paid member of our executive committee. It's all a volunteer effort. We have raised money and produced an initial fiscal feasibility review that was very encouraging statistics in that we could be solvent. It's not a final look. That has to come from LAFCO. We've been doing a regional listening tour. This is part of that tour tonight, is going to our stakeholders and nearby entities to let them know what we're up to and hear back, feedback. And we formed a 501c4 nonprofit for that work. As part of that, we've been able to contract with a number of consultants, namely civics for petition gathering and community polling. And the initial polling came back very positive, statistically positive for support for incorporation in the boundary of the town area. And we've also hired legal support with the Rennie Public Law Group. So that kind of interpretive drawing there is a potential town boundary for us. And I say potential because it doesn't, it's not been fully vetted. We have to start somewhere. Creating a town boundary is a bit of a process. It's iterative. You start with your best foot forward, and you draw that map and you do analysis, you get feedback, and then you revise. So this is by no means final, but just to lay it out for everyone, it starts in a state line over by Kings Beach. It follows State Route 28 all the way down the West Shore to the county line at Tahoe with El Dorado, and then it traverses north on 89, picking up Alpine Meadows, Olympic Valley, along the 89 corridor to Truckee, and then it turns right across Martis Valley to North Star. So what may we provide? Very similar to the services that Town of Truckee provides. Town council, town manager, finance, zoning and land use, economic development, local law enforcement, almost following your playbook here, contract with the county at first, and then when it's time to create a local law enforcement, that would be evaluated. Road maintenance and snow removal are in, transit-related services, and potentially animal control or some type of partnership. What stays the same? This is a bit of a small print there, but we have great special districts. They have been our functioning local governments. We do not touch our special districts in any way. It doesn't affect their tax structure. Their percentage of the ad valorem tax remains the same, and they continue to operate. So that's our fire protection districts. That's our public utility districts, NTPUD, TCPUD, Olympic Valley, NCSD, and so on. Schools stay the same. The school, Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, is unaffected. Highways would stay the same, managed by Caltrans and the Highway Patrol. Health and Human Services, that does stay with the county. That's a county entity. And all the NGOs and nonprofits that are involved, they stay the same as well. So our path forward, where are we now? We are working very hard to get a LAFCO application in. That's targeted for this month, and we're starting our community petition drive. So just to process things, how it works globally is we first need to go to LAFCO to have them evaluate whether or not we could be solvent as a town. In order to do that, within the town boundary, we need 25% of the voters to sign a petition. We have roughly 8,500 registered voters. So 25%, along with our application, gets us into analysis. Should that analysis bear fruit and other negotiations, we may go to the ballot in fall of 2026. That's our target. At the ballot measure, it's just folks that are in the town boundary that vote, registered voters, and it's 50% plus one vote. So we have a lot of work in front of us. That's our other quote there, Festina Lente, make haste slowly. So we're working very hard and we're working rapidly, but we're also going slow enough to hear comments, hear feedback, understand the scope and scale of what we're working on. We've been fundraising, and we've borne some fruit there. We've raised about $125,000, including part of that was a match from the NTCA, the North Tahoe Community Alliance. We have a GoFundMe website with donations available. No donation is too small nor too large, and every little bit helps. So if you're so inspired, you can look us up at easternplacerfuture.org. There's an FAQ there. We also have social media as well. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. I think what we could do is just go through the other presentation and your report, and then if you can stay for the questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just for a little context as well, appreciate Mr. Teixeira and Mr. Ryan coming to present tonight. This is something we'll be watching closely. We'll bring it back to you if there's hopefully continued movement in positive direction. But from a town's perspective, having a neighboring incorporated area that has animal control, maybe transit, public safety, land use, there's some coordination there, and I think it's something we'd want to be paying attention to and following along the great work that they're doing. So thank you for being here. Tonight is our incentive awards. So we had our all-employee meeting last week. We do these 3 times a year. And at each employee meeting, we offer incentive awards, and that is where employees nominate their fellow colleagues for great work that they've done in alignment with the town's values. We presented them last week, and I'm going to share them all with you and the community tonight. And we have about 11 or 12 of them, so get comfortable while I read these out and enjoy the great stories of the work that's happened this last quarter. First, we have Janine Krager. She is in our police department, and she was nominated by Chief Renfro for excellent work. And Janine is the 2024 Employee of the Year for the police department. And this is what Chief wrote about Janine. Janine is an exemplary candidate for the 2024 Employee of the Year Award, recognized for her outstanding contributions, professionalism, and initiative. From day one, she brought a positive attitude and deep expertise to her role, quickly becoming an essential part of the team. Janine was instrumental in implementing a new records office workflow and has taken full ownership of incident-based reporting data entry, a critical function she performs with precision and dedication. Her deep knowledge of NIBRS and CIBRS has significantly improved the accuracy of Truckee PD's crime statistics, aligning reports with IBR standards and enhancing data integrity and compliance. Sorry for all the acronyms. Through her proactive efforts to improve department processes and her commitment to excellence in public service, Janine truly embodies the town's core value of excellence. Next, our 2024 Officer of the Year is Connor Vickers, and Connor has demonstrated professionalism and commitment to excellence by consistently having outstanding attention to detail in his investigations, ensuring accuracy and thoroughness in every aspect of his work. A standout example of this is his handling of multiple recent fraud cases, where he went above and beyond by authorizing several search warrants to various banking institutions. His diligent efforts led to the identification of a suspect captured on an in-bank security footage, an outcome that would not have been possible without his initiative and follow-through. His tireless work ethic and genuine care for the community embodied the highest standards of law enforcement. Connor's performance exemplifies the town's core value of excellence through his dedication to quality service, integrity, and continuous leadership. Then our 2024 Volunteer of the Year, Mr. Joe Fiore. Joe is a remarkable selection for the 2024 Volunteer of the Year Award, as he truly represents dedication and selfless service to the department. As the most engaged VIP, volunteer in police, Joe is familiar and cherished presence, always ready to assist at events, support the team, and lift spirits with his infectious positivity. From directing traffic during community events to stepping in wherever help is needed, Joe takes on tasks that might otherwise go unnoticed, always with warmth, respect, and a genuine smile. His commitment reflects the town's core value of excellence, as he is consistently delivering meaningful contributions with sincerity and grace. Next, we have some employees in our engineering division. Jessica Thompson nominated Nola Mitchell for her excellent work on the West River Street Park, otherwise known as Daube Umawe Park. This project has been envisioned for about 15 years, with it passing through many hands before Nola completed it. This was Nola's first project, and she took ownership of it and found solutions when challenges occurred. The first unexpected challenge was was from the neighborhood. We had some additional conversations, but Nola organized those community meetings and she addressed all their concerns and questions very professionally. During construction, art was added to the project, requiring foundations and elimination of other park features in favor of the art. She paid special attention to the bathroom finishes before delivery and pushed hard to have the bathroom open before the 4th of July, working with the utilities, the bathroom company, and all the other team members to get those open. An entire additional element of the project was added mid-construction, that being the slope stabilization, which required more environmental permitting. The permitting was completed in early July, and the additional slope work is on its way to being completed. She's done an excellent job working with the contractor, utility providers, property owners, and staff to complete this project. That's a great community asset. Jessica also nominated Riley Powers for integrity, teamwork, accountability, commitment, and excellence. Riley was promoted to assistant engineer about a year and a half ago, just before Mike Vaughn retired. Riley inherited Mike's projects at that time, and Mike was a senior engineer, just as a reminder. Riley's first year as an assistant engineer, he completed the first phase of the mobility hub that had been partially started and started construction on phase 2A of the mobility hub project. He was also scheduled to assist with the paving and drainage project construction so he could learn the ropes and manage it for the 2025 project year. 3 CIP projects at the same time is a lot, especially when you're in a new position. Riley's plate was very full for his first year as an assistant engineer, but he completed this with flying colors, and the 2 projects that were under construction last summer have been completed. Riley was able to turn the bathroom bunker into a nice building worthy of a public downtown location, and that is the bathroom at the mobility hub. Cindy Peterson, our finance manager, nominated Jenny, Alex, and Eldana for their teamwork and commitment. And this is what Cindy wrote about Jenny, Alex, and Eldana. I'm recognizing the team based on town core values of teamwork and commitment. This team has done an amazing job revamping our business travel process. They took our previous process from an Excel form, which also included manual submittal for approval and payment, to a new automated form in Laserfiche. The new process provides an opportunity for automation and electronic approval workflow. The new process is also a helpful tool for the end user to provide all required information and documentation. The team worked tirelessly on every detail to ensure the form was easy to follow and addressed all necessary information. They solicited feedback from various town staff who tested the form, and the team made updates based on their feedback. No matter how many changes, updates they had to do to the form, they stuck with it and dedicated their time and effort to make sure the form provides end users, approvers, and the finance team an easier process to review, approve, and process travel requisitions for payment. Their commitment to streamlining the travel process has spurred the team to pursue other forms to streamlining using Laserfiche. Next, we have Danielle McHugh. She's in our transportation division, and she was nominated by Brittany Johansson and Alfred Knotts for her teamwork and commitment. Danielle was nominated because of her incredible diligence, organization, professionalism, and critical thinking during the extensive parking district infrastructure overhaul. As many of you know, we have new technology downtown, we have new meters, we have new paid parking systems in place. There were 3 different type of meters before that. They all lacked reliability. They were kind of a patchwork of different payment processes, and we are all moving into a simpler, more unified, streamlined approach to pay parking, and Danielle really led that up. And Alfred and Brittany have described that as reimagining our Frankenstein-type meters and do something more usable for the public. She has become a cornerstone of the effort for all of our downtown parking and our transportation, researching technology and vendors, developing detailed task lists, charts, new signage, setting up payment process for app and text payments, and inventory maps that guided the project from start to finish. Her meticulous attention to detail was essential in coordinating with other departments and external vendors, as well as the local business community. Time and again, she ensured that no detail, no matter how small, was overlooked, all while keeping our larger goal in sight: a seamless, intuitive, and consistent parking experience for our community so people can enjoy their time experiencing Truckee and not looking for a parking spot and meter. And a meter that worked, for that matter. Danielle, every time, this was from Brittany and Alfred to Danielle directly, every time we work together, I'm reminded of your ability to anticipate challenges, offer thoughtful perspective, and always communicate with clarity and respect. And I am in awe of your talents and genuinely look forward to tackling the next big thing alongside of you. Robert Ellis, our facilities supervisor, nominated Gina Cornell for her teamwork. And this is what Robert had to say for Gina, and I'm sure you will all appreciate this write-up. Gina is recognized for her outstanding commitment to teamwork and her ability to step up when things get messy, literally. Earlier this year, the facilities team was assigned not one, but 2 new public restrooms to maintain. I found myself faced with a not so glamorous challenge of figuring out how to keep these restrooms clean, how often to service them, and most importantly, who could handle the job without cracking under pressure. So I reached out to Gina. Without skipping a beat or holding her nose, she said yes. From day one, Gina took charge. She created a supply list, drafted a cleaning schedule, and got to work. On our first day at the new site, she returned with a list a mile long of everything that needed attention: repairs, restocks, plenty of fix-it-fast items, and it was clear she wasn't just there to clean, she was there to flush out the problems and get things flowing smoothly. Some might say, well, that's just her job, but I say this is a perfect example of what real teamwork looks like: rolling up your sleeves and tackling even the crappiest task with pride, and maybe a little air freshener. So everybody enjoying those new restrooms can thank Gina for their cleanliness. Robert also nominated Stephanie Klenk in our facilities division for her continued excellence as a valued and dedicated member of the facility team. Stephanie's leading her crew in landscaping the many roundabouts, maintaining the downtown planters, and spreading mulch just in time for the summer holiday rush. Stephanie consistently goes above and beyond in this area. She tirelessly ensures that projects are completed on time and to a high standard. Her commitment doesn't stop with the summer workload. When winter arrives, you can always count on Stephanie to be at the forefront of our downtown sidewalk snow removal efforts. She engages with her team and the public with professionalism and kindness, always focused on ensuring the safety of pedestrians throughout the downtown corridor. Stephanie frequently assists visitors unfamiliar with snow conditions, going so far as to help people get their cars unstuck from snowbanks. One story in particular captures Stephanie's character perfectly. I'd like to share a letter that was sent to Public Works by a visitor from the Bay Area. Hello, I was in Truckee this winter from the Bay Area and had an exceptionally pleasant interaction with a friendly person who identified herself as a Public Works employee named Stephanie. She offered to help detach my car wheel from a block of ice while I was parked in downtown Truckee and ultimately succeeded in her efforts. During the time assisting me, please know that she demonstrated the utmost kindness, compassion, and professionalism. I'm therefore extremely grateful for her and your department, as well as the town and the community of Truckee. Have a couple more here. Adelia Teal was nominated by Lydia in our building department for her teamwork. In January, one of our staff members transitioned out of building over into Public Works, and Adelia stepped up to maintain the workload of 2 staff members. She worked diligently to ensure our building department kept up with the constant demand of processing permits, communicating with the public about permits and construction questions, and all the other daily work tasks that exist at the 2 desks at the front counter. She showed strong teamwork by also being available for the front counter questions and walk-ins, the inspectors' questions, and the overall chaos that occurred on a regular basis for 3 months. When the new staff started, Adelia was not only training, but also keeping up with the busiest permit season. We are grateful for everything Adelia has done for our team and for being a constant. And our last 2 employees that were recognized were our 2 Civic Sparks Fellows / interns. They're both with us tonight. It's their last presentation in front of council tonight before their term ends with us. So Belen and Laurel, thank you for the work that you've done. Belen was nominated by Mel and Carmen in the KTG team for their teamwork, commitment, and excellence. From her first day joining the Keep Truckee Green team, Belen has always approached her job with confidence, a positive attitude, and unwavering determination. She's a true team player who is always willing to jump in and support wherever is needed. She's been invaluable in implementing the plastic water bottle ordinance, going to dozens of businesses in person to talk about the new requirements and provide resources and education. She has also led the launch of the Okapi, a new reusable coffee cup exchange program, which involves working with every coffee shop in Truckee to expand the program and conduct outreach throughout the town. Her work in sustainability and waste reduction will leave a long-lasting impact in our community. Thank you, Belen, for your hard work in supporting the KTG team, and as always, being a joy to work with. Belen's last day is August 21st, and we are going to miss you, but you'll be on to great things. And Laurel was nominated by Lynn for her commitment and excellence. Laurel came on in August of 2025 as a Civic Sparks Housing Fellow and hit the ground running. Her main project this year was to develop a housing equity framework, which you'll be hearing later tonight in our discussion items, that will help guide future town and regional housing programs. While equity frameworks are common in other fields, developing one for housing in a local government setting was quite unique, and she worked to develop the process from scratch. In the midst of her work, the AmeriCorps program was defunded, and her status, along with Belen's, was uncertain. But she remained committed to the work she was doing and was willing to be converted to be a housing intern after the funding was cut. After a few well-deserved but unexpected days off, she jumped back into her role and resumed her work on the framework. The Housing Equity Framework will be going to council tonight, and we appreciate all your excellent work and research in bringing that together. So those are all of our incentive awards. We do have a fairly new process with this, where the employee that nominates is reading and presenting these at the all-employee meeting to the person that they are nominating, and it's really a pleasure to see colleagues recognizing each other and really sincerely recognizing the work that they're doing and how they're collaborating together. So it's a really great thing that the town does, and appreciate sharing that with you. I'm going to roll right into town manager's report, and I just have a couple items. First, we had our Dark Skies photo competition, so that has closed. Voting has ended. We had 138 amazing photos submitted this year, and the reception will be held September 12th. That's a Friday evening at the Medical Office Building across from Tahoe Forest Hospital, and the winners will be announced that night. So if you're looking forward to that, mark that down on your calendar and save the date. This week is the last Truckee Thursday, so last opportunity for the year to go down and enjoy Truckee Thursday. And then also save the date on September 18th. We are hosting a community block party. More details to come. It's a little bit of a sneak peek, but mark that date down about 5 to 7 p.m. September 18th. And then lastly, right before we broke from the June for July recess, we had a change in staffing here at town, and we want to just acknowledge Becky Bucar is our Public Works Director, Town Engineer officially for this meeting. So congratulations, Becky. Dan Wilkins. And of course, Dan Style has been gracious enough to give us a long leadway in knowing about his retirement. So he's with us through the end of December, helping with the transition and backfilling of positions and downloading his almost 28 years of knowledge into staff. So we appreciate that, and Dan is still with us, but Becky is officially the Public Works Director and Town Engineer for the town at this point. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Jen. And now's an opportunity for public comment and any comments or questions from the town council as well on the 3 agenda items we just covered. So is there any public comment? Seeing none, do any of the council members have any comments or questions? Councilmember Pallavi.
One comment and then one question for you guys. My comment, obviously, congratulations to both Becky and Dan. Thank you. You've been celebrated a lot, and we'll continue to celebrate both of you. So thank you both for your service, and we look forward to working with you guys. Every single one of those employee incentive awards was amazing. So great job to everybody. I was going to maybe just call out three that I heard. First, Stephanie. I think Stephanie might be the most community recognized town team member out of all of us out there. She's always out there, and she always has just great pride in all the work that she does. So just wanted to add on to that. And I think Gina, who might be the least recognized and has maybe never been recognized up here on council, but I think Gina also deserves a shout out for all of the amazing work that she does. And it's no surprise to hear how she tackled that project that she got that award for. And then lastly, Detective Vickers. I want to just second everything that was said about him and the way that he's conducted himself. I unfortunately had some personal experience with him, and I was in shock and awe at how he handled all of that work. And I think some other businesses in town have mentioned something along those same lines. So big ups to Detective Vickers as well. Those were my comments. And then I had just one quick question for you guys. In your analysis, and you talked about the roadways, and so you were talking about 28 and 89 and 267. Those were the ones that you were talking about are going to continue to be maintained by CHP and Caltrans, but you are expecting to take whatever type of local control on all non-state highway routes, basically, correct? And you're looking at that, and you heard some of the comments here, and just want to make sure you're well aware of some of the right-of-way issues and encroachment issues, and fun stuff that goes into assuming roadways and what you might have ahead of you from a cost perspective.
Absolutely, eyes wide open on that. But yes, if it's not a Caltrans right-of-way and it's within the town boundary, and we are successful, those would be under the new town jurisdiction. Yep.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. That's it from me.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Henderson, do you have any comments or questions?
Just to reiterate, congratulations. We have so many incredible employees at Town Hall, and this wouldn't all happen without all of you working every day and doing everything that you do. So thank you.
Okay. Any other?
I will just add ditto to all of that. And I just thank you, Jen, for reading them aloud to council and to the community. I think it's great for us all to hear of all the incredible work, a lot of it behind the scenes that we don't see every day. So thank you for highlighting that on a quarterly basis. And thank you guys for the presentation tonight.
Yeah, I really appreciate the presentation. There's a lot of great interest in this in our community. And I think what a great combination of these things, recognizing that even if this does get incorporated, what that organization is really going to be about is their people. And you will have the opportunity to do some of this great work as well. So good luck to you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tashar and Mr. Ryan, for making the presentation and for staying for comments and questions. Okay. That being all the questions and answers, we're now going to move on to the consent calendar. These are items that are not considered controversial, and so it allows an opportunity to vote on them all together. I'll read through the 8 items, and then we'll see if anyone wants to have them pulled and considered more deeply. First item is simply the minutes from the June 24, 2025 regular meeting. 6.2 is the Village at Gray's Crossing Minor Street vacation and public service easements vacations for portions of Edwin Way, right-of-way dedication and lot line adjustment. 6.3 is authorization of federal funding under the Federal Transit Act, Section 5339, for the procurement of 2 replacement transit vehicles. 6.4 is the adoption of resolution for the Brickletown Maintenance District 6.5 is the design contract amendment for Trout Creek Reach 1, Phase 2. And then 6.6 is adoption of a resolution in support of the passage of Measure G supporting the on the November 4, 2025 special election. 6.7 is adoption of resolution to accept grant funding from the California Highway Patrol. And finally, 6.8 is acceptance of the financial status update for the period ending June 30, 2025, and purchasing authority. Does anyone on the council wish to pull any item? Does anyone
Yeah,
on?
sorry, I'd like to pull 6. Sorry, what number is it? I apologize. 6.6, please.
Okay. Does anyone on staff wish to pull anything?
No, Mayor.
Anyone in the audience wish to come to the podium and pull anything? Okay. Councilmember Pallavi has asked us to pull item 6.6. Do I have a motion on the remaining items, 6.1 through 6.8 less 6.6?
Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Sorry, I'll move. We approve consent minus 6.6.
I'll second.
Okay, we need a roll call vote.
Thank you. Councilmember Romack,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klovstad,
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie,
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi,
Yes.
and Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's move on to item 6.6. Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull 6.6. We have sort of a mixed history on the action that we take with regards to ballot measures, and I just wanted to ensure, everybody was on the same page and had an opportunity to support it. And just to be clear, what we're doing is, we did support step 1, which was moving with the JPA to approve putting it on the ballot. I will always maybe not always, but I will generally support things like that. I think it's important when we're faced with questions like this to provide the public with an opportunity to decide for themselves if, what tax rates and how they want to do things. I just have been looking at some of our historical actions and how we as a council and who we represent, therefore choose to weigh in or not on these ballot measures. And, just putting myself out there, letting the people decide is one thing, sort of weighing in on how the people decide is always a separate thing to me. And so just wanted to provide that opportunity either for anybody else to reflect on that for themselves or, choose to maybe not take a unanimous vote as it pertains to consent. So just wanted to bring that back to council. And I did find it fascinating, as you can probably guess, I was the one who asked that question, just so we all had it in front of us of how we've treated past ballot measures. And in general, a ballot measure, Measure E, which we ourselves put on the ballot, chose not to support in the voter record, just for everybody's recollection, right? That was the general sales tax that just went to ballot in November 2024, and the town council chose no action so as not to influence the voters, right? So just wanted to provide us with that opportunity on this one as well.
We do have representatives here from the Friends of the Truckee Library. Do you have any questions for them? Or
I don't necessarily have any questions from them. Maybe a clarifying question for staff, or I don't know if the Friends of the Library can answer this question, but I didn't see an exemption for seniors or people on fixed income. There was only an exemption. There was only a low income exemption, I believe, as part of the ballot language, and just want to recognize that we did receive some public comment regarding that ahead of time.
That's my understanding.
right. Any comments over on this side of the dais?
Appreciate those comments, and I appreciate that the question being asked in advance of how the council has voted on previous measures. And you're correct that we didn't take a position on Measure E, but we have taken a position to support other measures, including Measure K, T, U, and then Proposition 4 at the state level. So I think We have done a little of both.
Absolutely. No doubt. Mixed results.
We've been through it so many times. I've and have unanimously supported the new library on so many occasions and heard all the reasons for why we should support it. As well as the comment from Ryan Parrish we received this evening, which was pretty explicit about the many benefits. And we haven't seen opposition that I know of, just mostly unqualified support. Are there any other comments on the council? Is there any public comment?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with us. For the record, my name is April Cole. I am the Executive Director for the Friends of the Truckee Library. As Mayor Zabriskie said, we have seen incredible support from this council to date for the new library project, and thank you for having us have the opportunity to bring Measure G to the ballot. So I sincerely want to thank you for that opportunity. What I want to say tonight is that I'm really proud of this project. And yes, I am proud that we are building a library and an emergency resource center. But more than the actual act of building a library and an emergency resource center, I'm proud of the way that we're doing it. It's really important to talk about the actions that we've taken when we look at the whole picture of this project. This has been a true model of public-private partnership. It is a community-led effort fueled by private philanthropy and supported by the town of Truckee, Nevada County, and Placer County. Good things happen when we do things alone, but only great things can happen if we have a group together. And we talk about great, Measure G for great. I couldn't help it. When I heard that letter, that's what I thought. That's what Measure G represents. It represents a very unique funding model. Only 43% of the library project is being funded through this bond measure. 57% comes from other funding sources, private philanthropy, foundations, and grants. It's this approach that lets us leverage outside funding while reducing the burden on local taxpayers. While there has been precedent in other measures, this one is unique, being community-led and having this open up other funding models. I will note one thing that is the same as other measures, Measure T, we followed their low-income exemptions exactly. It's exactly the same policy as Measure T. I want to add that over 700 individuals, businesses, and organizations have already endorsed Measure G, showing broad community support early days before the campaign has really even ramped up. So your endorsement of Measure G would reflect the town's commitment to smart, efficient, and collaborative solutions to critical infrastructure for our community. This solution helps stretch public dollars further, keeping our community moving forward together. I deeply appreciate your consideration of this endorsement, but also just your participation to date. I'm really proud of the way that we've worked together to get this project so far. So thank you, guys.
Well done. Well done. Hello, council members. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Kathleen Egan. I'm on the Friends of the Truckee Library Board, but I'm here as a member of the Bond Campaign Committee. The biggest thing I want to say, I can't say it any better than April said it, but the biggest thing I want to say is your support, and I would argue and ask for unanimous support, is really critical for us passing this bond measure. We want you to know that. It's very important. We've been advised such. We are doing everything we can to get endorsements throughout the community, and having your endorsement will be fundamental to our success. Thank you.
Okay, that appears to be all the public comments. We'll bring it back to council for any further deliberation. I would just note it's a multi-million-dollar civic building that the town has not been asked to fund beyond what it's already contributed in terms of staff time. It's just, I don't know when the town or county would ever, I don't think they ever would be able to come up with over $30 million in funding. And here we have a group of citizens who are making the effort on their own because of their beliefs in our community. So I'm ready to call for a vote, but I'm hoping it can be unanimous. Can we do a roll call?
I think we need a motion.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
That we adopt Resolution 2025-52, supporting the passage of Measure G on the November 4th special election.
I'll second.
Okay, now we can do a roll call.
Councilmember Romack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klofstad?
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie?
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So now we can move on to the discussion items. And the first one is item 7.1. And that'll be the Marks zoning map amendment. And Chantal, you're going to lead the discussion. Thank you.
I sure am. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Zabriskie and council members. I'm here tonight with the Mark zoning map amendment and lot line adjustment. This is planning application 2024-155. I'm Chantal Bernberg, and I'm an associate planner. Item 7.1. And this is going to be probably the shortest presentation you've ever had from me. So this is record breaking. So tonight we are here because this planning application involves a zoning map amendment. Chapter 18.160 of our development code provides procedures for passing a zoning map amendment, which begins with the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission hears the request and then provides written recommendation to council, either to approve with modification, or deny the zoning map amendment based on the findings. And once council receives the the Planning Commission's written recommendation, which is happening this evening, the council can then take action on whether to approve with modifications or deny the amendment, also based on the findings. The project is located in our Glenshire subdivision. There are two parcels associated. One is 10441 Somerset Drive. This is in our very low density residential general plan land use designation. The zoning is RLX, low density residential, no further subdivisions. This parcel, so it's the larger of the two flag type shaped lots, has the existing home located on it. The other parcel, which is the one that we're looking at amending the zoning, is the smaller of the two. This is 1449 Somerset Drive. It shares the general plan land use designation of very low density residential. However, the zoning is public facilities. So a little background, these two parcels were created in the Glenshire Unit Number 2 subdivision. Lot A, which is the parcel that we're discussing changing the zoning this evening, was created for the Glenshire Mutual Water Company. In 2002, the Truckee Donner Public Utility District acquired the Glenshire Mutual Water Company and then decommissioned the well that was located on Lot A. At a later date, the TDPUD sold some existing lands that were no longer necessary off, and they sold Lot A to the owner of Lot 178 or 10441 Somerset. Tonight, the project applicant is requesting to do a lot line adjustment to merge the two lots, and that cannot happen. We cannot merge two lots that have split zoning or have different zoning, so we can't create a split zone lot. So before that, we need to discuss changing the zoning on the public facility parcel from public facilities to RLX. After that, if that is approved, staff can go ahead and work through the lot line adjustment and approve the merger. In order to approve a zoning map amendment, we have some findings. First, would changing the zoning be consistent with our general plan? As I mentioned earlier, the general plan land use designation on this lot is low-density residential, so it's currently not consistent. Moving it from public facilities to low-density residential would bring it into consistency with our general plan. The project is not the zoning map amendment wouldn't be detrimental to public health or safety. It's no longer needed for water use. There are no public health and safety concerns. It would not result in the loss of residential density. There is no residential density that is associated with a public facility zone lot, so there's no change there. Can the zoning map amendment be supported with adequate sewer and water system capacity? There would be no change to the sewer or water capacity needs. This was also routed to both of the agencies, and there were no concerns with the zoning map change. And is it on a site that's physically suitable for the proposed zoning designation? This is a site that our general plan looks at as low-density residential. It is surrounded by existing residential uses and in an existing residential subdivision. So it is a suitable site for the change to RLX. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission was going to forward a recommendation. The Planning Commission heard the zoning map amendment at their June 17th Planning Commission meeting. Their written recommendation comes in the form of a resolution, Planning Commission Resolution 2025-08. And this is where the Planning Commission recommends that the council take the following actions: determining the project exempt from CEQA and approving the amendment to modify the zoning from public facilities to low-density residential. And just like the Planning Commission, staff is also recommending that council approve the zoning map amendment by introducing Ordinance 2025-06, adopting an amendment to the Town of Truckee zoning map sheet 12 to rezone 10449 Somerset Drive from public facilities to low-density residential, and to also determine the project exempt from further environmental review in accordance with Section 15305. Of course, there's always alternatives that the council can make or could choose. You could continue the hearing if you would like to request more information. You could find that the exemption was not suitable and require an initial study, or you could recommend that the zoning map amendment be denied on the basis that one or more of the required findings cannot be made. And that wraps up my presentation. The applicant is here if you have any questions. He does not have a presentation, and of course, staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Chantel. We'll start questions with Councilmember Romack.
No questions.
Councilmember Henderson.
No questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Councilmember Pallavi. Vice Mayor Klofstad.
No questions.
I have no questions. Opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to deliberation. I'll start off by noting that staff reported that the Planning Commission quickly and unanimously voted to recommend approval.
I say we follow their lead, and I will make a motion to introduce Ordinance 2025-06, adopting an amendment to the Town of Truckee zoning map sheet 12 to rezone 10449 Somerset Drive from public facilities to low-density residential, and determine the project exempt from further environmental review in accordance with Section 15305 of CEQA guidelines.
And I'll second.
Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Romack?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klofstad?
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie?
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi?
Yes.
And Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Thank you. It passes unanimously.
Okay, let's move on to 7.2. I'll note that the council quickly and unanimously voted to approve the project. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chantal.
Good evening, council members. My name is Laurel Burlingame. I'm the Housing and Idea Programs intern here at the Town of Truckee. I'm going to be presenting the Housing Equity Framework for your acceptance and recommendation prioritization. As you know, increasing the inventory of long-term workforce housing available to community members living and working in Truckee is a town council priority. The town continues to face a shortage of rental and for sale housing that is affordable to people with jobs in and around Truckee. As a part of the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility IDEA action plan, town staff created this housing equity framework to identify gaps in the region's existing housing programs. This framework is intended to inform town and regional partners' consideration of future program changes and/or new housing programs to ensure that the region's housing solutions are designed and operated to meet the needs of all community members. So you might be wondering, what is a housing equity framework? Well, equity frameworks are commonly used in fields such as literacy, health, and environmental justice. An equity framework is a structured approach to identifying both areas of success in community programs and areas of opportunity to better meet the needs of the community. Housing equity is an established concept, which means making sure everyone has a fair chance to find and keep a safe, stable, and affordable place to live, no matter their background or situation. While many jurisdictions incorporate equity principles into their housing programs and policies, staff did not find any examples of similar jurisdictions developing a housing equity framework as a guiding document. So this housing equity framework is a structured approach to assess the gaps in the Truckee region's existing housing programs, policies, and services, and work to ensure that there are housing opportunities for all. So the objective is to assess the gaps in Truckee's existing housing programs and work to ensure that there are housing opportunities for all. It investigates where the Truckee region's existing housing programs provide availability and choice, and where there's room for growth in creating safe, affordable, and desirable housing options. In the community opinion survey conducted by True North Research in the beginning of 2025 for the town, there was a 91% of respondents were in support, so that's great news. Just wanting to highlight our communities of focus. The town's IDEA program has identified several communities of focus, and throughout the development of the housing equity framework, these communities were paid specific mind to, and that's youth, limited English proficient individuals, Hispanic and Latin individuals, the LGBTQ plus community, Indigenous peoples, senior citizens, people facing financial insecurity, people with disabilities, people experiencing homelessness, veterans, and for the purpose of this equity framework, seasonal workers were also included since they're a big driver of housing need in our region. To provide you a little bit of background on housing need, the Mountain Housing Council was a regional collaboration from 2017 to 2023, facilitated by Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation. Of the about 13,500 housing units in Truckee, only about 6,000 of them are occupied year-round, making up about 46%. Of those occupied units, the Mountain Housing Council found that 4,260 are inadequately housed. Inadequately housed means several things. It means, one, overburdened from a cost perspective, so they're spending more than 30% of their income on housing. Two, overcrowded, which means more than one person per room of the house, and that includes the kitchen, bathroom, living spaces, etc. And then underhoused, which means living without adequate plumbing or kitchen facilities. So just, again, that's overburdened, overcrowded, underhoused, make up inadequately housed. And this graph shows you those 4,260 houses that are inadequately housed. With the high cost of living in Truckee, approximately 38% of Truckee households spend more than 30% of their income on housing. So that's a significant chunk of our population. And to get into the methods and the development process of this framework, first, town staff did a data analysis and research review where we reviewed census data, local assessments, and research findings about housing and community needs. We then conducted interviews with about 30 community members, and those included housing leaders, representatives from community organizations, and locals feeling the effects of housing instability with a specific focus on our communities of focus. From there, we synthesized the common findings that were found in data analysis and research review, the interviews, and created our recommendations. And we grouped those recommendations into 10 themes. From there, we had a community workshop hosted in June to provide the community with an opportunity to review and comment on the draft themes and findings. That had about 25 participants there. And then following the community workshop, we took all the feedback that we've collected, both at the workshop and throughout the entire development process, also coming from town staff and other housing stakeholders, and we incorporated that into further refine the recommendations. So like I said, we grouped those recommendations into 10 themes. Those 10 themes highlight the actions necessary to make housing more equitable in our region, and we want to pay attention that the following actions are recommended both for the town of Truckee, partnering jurisdictions and organizations to improve housing equity within the town of Truckee as a whole. So we have 10 themes, and then underneath those 10 themes, there are specific recommendations. And those specific recommendations are brought to help address the housing issues we've identified through this process. And we want to yet again say that addressing housing issues in the Truckee Tahoe region requires broad support and cooperation between the town, other local jurisdictions, and community organizations. So throughout the housing equity framework, we've highlighted potentially relevant partners. And staff has selected 5 specific recommendations for you to, that we recommend council prioritize and add to the 2025 to 2027 strategic priorities bike rack. So I'm going to go through each of the 10 recommendations. On the slides, I have all of the 10 themes, and underneath the themes, I have all the recommendations listed, but I'm just going to highlight ones that we have selected and ones that we already have in progress as we go. So theme number 1 is enhance housing assistance for communities of focus by ensuring equitable access to resources. We've got 2 selected recommendations here. Recommendation 1.1 is explore the potential benefits of establishing a local housing authority. And recommendation 1.4 is create an equitable and innovative solution to assist with the purchase of mobile homes. Theme number 2 is create a centralized source of information about all housing assistance programs in the region. And luckily for us, this one's already in progress. The Truckee Tahoe Workforce Housing Agency plans to take over maintaining this resource on their website, so that's great. Theme number 3 is advocate for state policies that allow tailored solutions to meet the region's unique workforce housing needs, since state-mandated housing laws impose one-size-fits-all solutions that do not provide the flexibility necessary to address challenges unique to mountain communities. Both of these are in progress through our legal advocacy program, and that's to continue to advocate for Truckee-specific AMI at the state and federal level, and continue to advocate to preserve local control over housing and land use decisions. Theme number 4 is work to expand senior housing options. And then we've got one selected recommendation under this one, and that's consider how existing local housing programs could be expanded to include seniors, recommendation 4.3. Theme number 5 is improve the way we engage with the community and share information about housing programs. Both of these are in progress through the IDEA Action Plan, specifically the documents, the language access plan and the community engagement plan, and then continuing to work with Sierra Community Houses Promotoras is something that we do. So that's in progress. Theme number 6 is preserve existing affordable and workforce housing stock to prevent people from living in substandard housing. We've got 2 in progress recommendations here. That's establish a home repair assistance program to help low-income homeowners and renters maintain safe and stable housing, and integrate wildfire risk, climate resilience, and energy efficiency into housing policies. Theme number 7 is create more transparency in the waitlist process at affordable housing developments. This one is selected for council prioritization, and that is recommendation 7.1, explore the ability to require/encourage waitlist transparency for affordable housing projects as a requirement for funding. Theme number 8 is increase housing stock. Most of these are in progress. That's continue to streamline the review of affordable housing project based on state and local timelines, continue to incentivize builders to create deed-restricted affordable units, continue to offer home purchase assistance programs like THOP and MARTIS Fund, and develop a Truckee-specific bonus program that meets the Truckee-specific housing needs and goals. Theme number 9 is encourage large employers of seasonal staff to create employee housing. Recommendation 9.1 is selected for prioritization, and that's encourage large employers of seasonal staff, specifically international workers like those with J-1 visas, to create employee housing in line with the workforce demand. And then in progress, we've got continue to expand transit services in the region since seasonal employees use those often. And then finally, the last theme is invest in supportive services for unhoused residents in line with the Truckee Tahoe Homeless Action Plan, and both of those recommendations are in progress going along with the Truckee Tahoe Homeless Action Plan. So those are the 10 themes. Oh, and then we also have several additional recommendations that didn't fit underneath our themes, and that's improve accessibility for individuals with disabilities, support climate resilient and sustainable housing solutions by promoting green building incentives and energy efficient housing programs, support efforts to attract and maintain home insurance providers. So those are all of the themes with the recommendations listed. And then we have our selected recommendations for council prioritization. These are the 5 that we chose. These 5 recommendations were selected for prioritization because these issues were called out multiple times throughout the research and outreach process, marking them as top priorities. In addition, these recommendations were selected for council prioritization based on their high impact and feasibility. So I'll just go ahead and read those for you again. We've got recommendation 1.1, explore the potential benefits of establishing a local housing authority to create affordable, safe, and high-quality housing opportunities for residents and workers. Recommendation 1.4, create an equitable and innovative solution to assist with the purchase of mobile homes. Recommendation 4.3, consider how existing town housing programs could be expanded to include seniors. Recommendation 7.1, explore the ability to require/encourage waitlist transparency for affordable housing projects as a requirement for funding. Recommendation 9.1, encourage large employers of seasonal staff, specifically international workers like those with J-1 visas, to create employee housing in line with workforce demand. So those are the 5 that we've brought to you. In conclusion, staff recommends that the town council accept the housing equity framework and provide direction to prioritize selected recommendations for addition to the 2025 to 2027 strategic priorities bike rack. As the town of Truckee develops new housing programs and revises its existing programs, this framework will serve as a tool to ensure that housing solutions are designed and operated to meet in ways that meet the needs of community members, emphasizing our communities of focus. Achieving housing equity requires collaborative action and sustained commitment region-wide, and this framework and accompanying recommendations can serve as a guide for the town and our housing partners to follow. And with that, my presentation is concluded, and I turn it over to you all for deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. We'll go to questions first, and we'll start with Councilmember Pallavi.
No questions. Great job, Laurel. It's great to see. Thank you.
Councilmember Romack.
Yeah, can you go back to the previous slide? And then also first, just clarity for everyone, community too, if we're prioritizing 5 actions in the bike rack, that means the next time we talk about the work plan, that's when we would decide of moving them into the work plan. It's not that we're starting to work on these 5 things right away.
That's correct. Maybe just a clarification that you don't necessarily have to wait until we do a new work plan if capacity opens up or something falls out of the work plan for whatever reason, it would be an opportunity to elevate one of these, but we would not be starting work on these immediately.
Got it. Thank you. And just
And you would bring it back to council before elevating it?
Correct.
Yes.
thank you. Then I had a question. I think explore, create, consider, explore, those all make sense. We're looking at program ideas. The recommendation 9.1 is just encourage large employers. Do we envision that more as just sending letters, talking with them? It wouldn't be that we're necessarily developing a program, or could it might be something like that around large employers?
I can take that. I think the language right now is pretty soft because we think there's a lot of opportunities. There are submitting letters like we did with the Palisades plan. We do know there's a lot of employers in the region that are not necessarily in the town of Truckee, but in the larger region that use our programs. You could explore, financial opportunities for supporting our programs locally. So there's a lot of options. So we wanted to use kind of soft language for that as well.
Got it. Thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. For theme 6, I know that mobile homes came up, and I'm just curious if tiny homes came up at all. I know we've sort of had varied conversations about that in the past.
Tiny homes weren't something that came up much, if at all. You did all the interviews, I guess. I'll let you answer.
Tiny homes never came up in any of the interviews or at the community workshop.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a similar question about the bike rack. That's been answered. Last one, I guess, is sort of building on Councilmember Romack's question on recommendation 9.1. I think I had a similar sort of question about the encourage language. It sounds like we have a lot of options, but I also recognize we don't have any jurisdictional authority necessarily over some of those larger employees. So I was curious sort of if we can give any more color to what some of those different opportunities might actually be. Maybe it's just something for us to consider in deliberation and less of a question. But if you have any other color you want to provide, that'd be great.
I just wanted to add that for 9.1 is one of the recommendations that was not town of Truckee only. It was it included town of Truckee, other jurisdictions, and community organizations. This recommendation is definitely one on the larger scale. It could have a very huge impact, but is, a bigger lift than, expand to include seniors. So this is one that we see as definitely as a piece that we're partnering with our other jurisdictions and community organizations as a larger lift versus just us doing it on our own.
Maybe I can add on a little bit there as well. I think when we look at particularly these 5 and 9.1, maybe even more explicitly, some of this is just keeping this in our mind as we move forward with housing programs. So I think we all know we don't really address seniors in many of our programs, and now we have something that's a real reminder that we should be thinking about that as we come back and update programs and talk about programs. The seasonal staff, as we start to review utilization of some of our existing programs, it might be helpful, and it's a good reminder for us to bring back statistics about who we are housing in those programs, and then how we can lean into other partners. So I think I guess what I'm saying in a very long-winded way, because I missed chatting with you all in the last month, is these are kind of guiding lights for us as we have our future conversations.
Thank you.
Anything further, Councilmember Henderson?
No.
Okay, Vice Mayor Klofstad.
Yeah, just a few. How would establishing a local housing authority, tell me how that would be different than what we have currently with the Tahoe Truckee Workforce Housing Joint Powers Authority?
Yeah, so this would be a very early exploration step of mainly looking at the benefits of creating a local housing authority. Local housing authorities can, run low-income housing developments. They maintain the wait lists. We currently do have a regional housing authority that covers Bear, Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. It's a very large area that is, based down the hill. So they don't necessarily aren't as in tune with our unique needs. And so the idea would be a more local housing authority that was more in tune, covered a smaller area and more in tune with the unique needs of our area versus one that covers a very large. And, potentially, this is just explore the benefits of something like this. Maybe we discover that as part of this exploration that the Workforce Housing Agency covers all that or could be expanded. But the idea is to have something that functions like a housing authority, but is more local and could have a greater impact locally.
So not necessarily a funding agency.
Not necessarily.
But possibly.
But could be.
Could be.
But I mean, that's being looked at as well. So yeah.
Okay. Encourage large, the 9.1. This one is really fascinating to me because we're talking about both large employers, but segmenting off the ones that just have seasonal staff. And why is that? Because it seems like we have several large employers that need staff year round.
Sure. I'd say that we would definitely, large employers that have staff year round are important as well. The main bit with the seasonal staff is that finding housing seasonally is really tough. And many of these large employers provide housing specifically for seasonal staff, less so than year-round employees, and that's why we specifically focused on that.
Yeah, so just to expand on that, the large employers that have seasonal workers do provide some employee housing, but not enough for all their employers. And especially if you compare, interesting statistics, but compare Tahoe, Truckee to other resort jurisdictions and other places, our large seasonal employers provide a lot less than some of the other areas have a lot more seasonal housing for their employees. It's something that is expanding, but yeah, especially compared to some of the other places, we have a lot less of that seasonal, like on-site housing. And additionally, the international workers often are lacking transportation and might have limited English proficiency. So they have multiple barriers when they're finding housing compared to someone who works at the hospital or school. Like obviously those large employers also have a housing need, but there's kind of a specific multiple barriers for the international and seasonal workers that are coming in for just a short period of time with almost no support system.
Because that housing is pretty unique. It needs to be fully furnished. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On a bus line, or close to transit.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, the 4.3 to include seniors. I know we have a lot of programs that include that are specifically focused on low income. That does not necessarily define seniors, but they have very unique requirements. So we're considering trying to create housing that would include those specific requirements to fulfill seniors' needs.
This specific recommendation is more about bringing in seniors to our existing workforce housing program. So we do have, low income housing, and there's an income requirement which not all seniors meet. Most of our, the majority of our housing programs right now, at least at the town, are workforce. And while there are still working seniors, there are a lot of seniors who are no longer working who then do not qualify for our workforce housing programs. So it's looking at our workforce housing programs and do we include seniors in those? Do we develop new programs that are specifically focused on non-working seniors? So it's more of the non-working seniors, no matter the income, are not necessarily qualifying for our workforce programs. So looking at more holistically about how that need can be met.
We created a gap there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Great work. Lots of detail and obviously an enormous amount of information gathering and coalescing. So well done.
Thank you. Sticking for a moment with the seniors, I was trying to understand that as well. You're thinking more in terms of something like for retired workforce. This is not about thinking about senior living where a facility provides meals, amenities, and housekeeping, which is the standard commercial model for seniors.
Yeah, I mean, we have recommendation, like, continue to or look at ways to incentivize develop of senior housing more in that manner of speaking. That was one of the recommendations that was not included for prioritization, but is just in the larger housing equity framework, the more traditional senior housing developments. But this recommendation was specifically for like our existing programs.
Got it. Okay. And then tiny homes were mentioned. Nevada County recently adopted liberalizing rules to allow tiny homes on wheels. Was any consideration given that for our community, or did you think about it at all? I guess my question.
I think we were leaving the tiny homes decision to planning, and that wasn't in, as far as I know, there's not, planning's not looking to take on tiny homes currently, so we didn't have much discussion around that, but planning can jump in.
Yeah, I realize a lot of this report was sort of a trip down memory lane with programs we've already adopted. The other thing now then is, on the environmentally sensitive areas, or whatever we call it, the areas that are hazardous in terms of impacts on health, or the environmental justice concept. I was wanting to know where those areas are in town, and what I got back was simply a reference to the statutory definition. I was thinking about where geographically in Truckee are they? Are we just talking about along Interstate 80, or do we have brownfields in Truckee, or where are these places?
Yeah, it would primarily be along the highway corridor, and also looking at things like if you're in a flood zone.
A flood zone
like
would be considered. Okay. And then going to the 5 recommendations, I appreciate seeing one on mobile homes. We have spent time over more than a decade talking about how to improve conditions for mobile homeowners. And what I'd like to do is have you give me a sense of what the relative benefits are of your recommendation for assisting with the acquisition of, I assume, the acquisition of existing mobile homes within a mobile home park versus putting our efforts into a rent stabilization ordinance or rezoning mobile home parks to make sure they remain mobile home parks. I'm trying to draw a comparison. What's in the best interest of the community?
We chose specifically to have this recommendation with the assistance to purchase mobile homes because mobile homes are currently excluded from our THOP program, since THOP requires a deed restriction that goes with the land, and since mobile homes do not own the land that's underneath them, it's not possible for them to purchase a mobile home through THOP. So that's specifically why we chose this recommendation for your prioritization. I'd say that maybe I can have Lynn take over for the second half.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the reasons we picked this one is it is one that we can do ourselves. You know, it doesn't, as you know, there are a lot of restrictions on mobile homes from the state. There's a lot of complications with that in getting rent stabilization. Not to say that would be a great thing for mobile home ownership. This one was one that we picked because it was in our jurisdiction to do and could be ramped up fairly quickly. And so we felt it was a feasible and had a large impact, especially because mobile homes are one of the few remaining, home ownership opportunities for lower income individuals. We already have kind of some pieces in place to potentially launch that program. So it was one that we picked for feasibility and immediate impact.
Okay. My concern is it doesn't really increase the supply or really lower the cost of living in a mobile home park. But also this is the first I've heard about a white paper on rent stabilization and mobile home parks, so I'm not aware if there being a lot of impediments to it. I thought you just paste and copy, change the name of the jurisdiction. You're done.
No. I've thumbed through at about 50 rent stabilization ordinances. No two are alike. There are a number of variables that you have to think about with all of them. And there's a reason why no two are alike. It's not simply cutting and pasting because they're so variable. You really have to look at what makes the most sense for the jurisdiction. So I think that developing a rent stabilization program would take a fair bit of time. It's not that it can't be done. It would take some time, and it would require extensive policy discussions about how best to achieve the council's aims.
Okay. So is that part of the reason you went with assisting people in buying someone else's mobile home?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the, I had a question on the existing vacant sites. Where were we dealing with vacant sites? You know what I'm talking about? That's not ringing a bell.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
Was it specifically for homeless services, or was it?
Yes, thank you. Right, I had asked about what sites are currently available, and the answer I got was, well, we already adopted the housing plan. It has vacant sites in it. My understanding is those sites are, since adoption of the plan, most of those sites, if not all of them, are unavailable. Did you give any consideration to trying to identify?
So the housing, so that answer came from planning on that one. Yeah. And we are about to kick off planning is about to kick off the process of updating the housing element for the next round. And so that will be a part of the next round of the housing element. So right now, those identified sites are as identified in the housing element, but that will be updated starting, next month is when they're kicking off the new housing element process.
Okay. And then finally, in looking at this report overall, I really saw it as, despite all these community focus communities, despite all the long list, I see this report is overall addressing the low income, how much of the housing equity has to do with people who can't afford decent housing. And then I saw the seniors being somewhat of a discrete section. You address both of those. And the third thing that struck me was there was the mention about the people of different sexual orientations. And realizing that doesn't have to do with how you build a building, and it can affect anyone of any income level. And so did you consider, is there anything more to do besides just educating people to make them realize they do have rights and remedies if they're the victims of sexual discrimination? And there's a number of other civil rights that are protected. I know there's people who don't realize they have those rights and remedies. So what are your thoughts on including that in the plan, just as an educational item, spreading the word?
Yeah, we definitely can add that as a specific recommendation. We wanted to we did intend to include, all of the communities of focus and especially, federally and state protected classes. But we can definitely add that as part of the larger education is, that wouldn't necessarily be the town, but maybe something that one of the community partners, I know Sierra Community House already offers some housing legal services. But I definitely see the value in having that as a separate recommendation as the legal, the legal rights and remedies that people have access to add that as a specific education item as a recommendation.
Okay. My colleagues have been very patient with my questioning, and I only have one more, just as sparked by your remark about Sierra Community House. What's the impediment to simply providing funding to Sierra Community House, because they already have a program to educate people on their civil and housing rights? And I guess that's a legal question for Andy about government giving money to nonprofits.
There are no impediments to doing that. And governments do that all the time. You just want to have an agreement in place that spells out clear expectations about what they're meant to be doing, what the deliverables are, and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just to add to that, we already contract with Sierra Community House on a number of things. So this is something that we could certainly look at as a possibility for how to achieve that goal. We haven't had a conversation with them at this point, so we'd have to make sure that they're interested in taking that on.
Okay, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
I know that the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation had their survey out again this summer. Do we know when a new housing needs assessment is supposed to be produced? I'm just curious, since we talk a lot about it here.
Sure. That survey was for the housing needs assessment, and there will be a new one coming out. I'm not sure when they'll
Hopefully
have
this fall.
Yeah, hopefully this fall. It's in conjunction with the TRPA.
And we were really hoping it would be done in conjunction, so we'd have new data for this one, but unfortunately, it was not done in time.
Yeah, but hopefully in the fall they'll get new data for us.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Laurel, and getting this all done. So now we'll turn to public comment. Would any member of the public like to comment?
Try it again? Okay. Good evening, Town Council members and staff. My name is Sophia Heydrich, and I am the Advocacy Director for Mountain Area Preservation. I'm just here tonight to provide some support, nothing monumental to say. We were unable to attend the community workshop back in June. It was the same night as our board meeting. But I think this is so important, and it's obvious that there's been a tremendous amount of work that went into this. And I just want to say, from a perspective of an advocacy group that does advocate for workforce and affordable housing with other local jurisdictions, that we are often pointing to the town of Truckee's programs and saying, hey, look at them. This could be expanded regionally. These could be amplified. And it's just really nice to see that even though the town of Truckee has really taken a leadership position on a lot of these housing programs, you're not complacent and still looking at additional gaps and how to fill those gaps. I think that's really important. I loved a lot of the recommendations and the findings that came forward. I would encourage you to add those all to the bike rack, all those recommendations. If I had one sort of tiny little piece of feedback or recommendation, I would just say to ensure that you're reaching out to all of the organizations and the jurisdictions that are identified as implementers of a recommendation. This could have been just like a minor oversight, but Alexis Aller is our executive director. She's also the president of the Martis Fund, and they are identified as one of the implementers of one of the recommendations. And as far as she was aware, there was no contact with the Martis Fund about just having any participation or feedback. And it's just really important to have buy-in from those organizations and saying, hey, I mean, even if there's future coordination that has to happen, there always is, but just sort of kind of an initial piece of feedback saying, hey, yeah, we're going to keep doing this program, or we still support this, and we want to be partners with the town moving forward. And I'm sure that they would have said that. It's always good to sort of double check that box. With that, again, great work. I'm really excited to see what comes out of this and what additional programs the town is able to create that we can kind of keep advocating for in the region. And again, really appreciate the effort tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hendricks. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go to council deliberations. We'll start with Councilmember Romack.
Sure. Thank you. And Sophia, thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. It's nice to hear positive, support, and we know your Mountain Area Preservation super engaged. So just thank you for coming and speaking up and saying that. And thank you to staff for all the work that went into this and the 30 interviews. I think this is such an incredible model and great showing of the Truckee way and involving lots of folks and really reaching out to the community in a variety of ways. So just kudos to you all. And then, Mayor, you mentioned it was kind of a trip down memory lane reading about the programs. I think that was also super fantastic. Gave us all updated stats on how well some of our housing programs are doing, maybe some others, how maybe they're still not kicking in as hard as we'd like, but that's just always nice to get updates. And again, a way for us to point back when community members ask us, we can say, oh, as of July, here we go. So thank you. I think this is a great starting point, and I'm supportive of all of these opportunities. I think highlighted regional collaboration, ensuring we're working with all of our partners identified in here is important. I think different folks are working on different things, so I know you guys do a great job of staying in touch, but continuing to do that so we're never doubling up on the same efforts, and when we have great ideas, sharing them with others so that way more people can implement them. So encourage you to continue to do that. Definitely excited. Recommendation 4.3. I appreciate your questions, Vice Mayor. I think I've heard this from some folks about, I don't qualify for any of these programs because I'm now a retired senior, but I've worked in this community. So thinking about how could we potentially open up some opportunities for those folks who are probably still volunteers and serve on our local boards and things like that, so are still impacting our community and maybe are facing housing challenges to be able to continue to stay. Also just wanted to highlight the transparency around the wait lists. I think that would be great. And then again, it helps us be able to better tell the story of the need for other housing too. If we can show, here's the wait list for all of our affordable units, this is why X. So really excited about that one as well. So encouraged by this document and the work that was done and continuing to move forward on great housing solutions.
Okay, Councilmember Romack, there were the 5 recommendations just for possible efficiency. Are you fine with the 5 recommendations? Yep. Okay. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Sort of reiterating, I'm really excited about this framework and just want to thank everyone who worked so hard on it, especially over the last couple of months. I think it is, as Sophia mentioned, it really is, we're making great progress, and we know there's still so much opportunity and so much need in our community. So we have to really keep pushing forward. So just really, really happy to see this come forward. I definitely defer to staff on which recommendations should be prioritized for the bike rack. It sounds like they were considered based on sort of feasibility and resource intensiveness and impact and things like that. So it sounds like there were some good filters they were put through. So I feel really comfortable with this and excited that we have some more things in the bike rack. That always creates some of its own challenges, but we'll work through those as they come.
Councilmember Pallavi.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great job, and I think to a lot of Jen's comments, something that we're sort of going to keep in the back of our heads as we continue to work on a lot of our programs. I do have one question that just came up as we were deliberating, and Lynn, when you were explaining in 1.1 the local housing authority, you were equating it to the regional housing authority down on the west slope, and I guess when I read it, I was interpreting it to be more of a housing trust, more like a land trust, but for housing. So just to clarify, are you specifically referring to authority in the more public sense of the word, at least in this recommendation? And I see you shaking your head yes, so I'm just going to go with a yes. And is there any reason not to amend that recommendation to say establishing a local housing authority and or trust to create blah, 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 blah? Because I guess that's how I was interpreting it. And that continues to be sort of the land issue, the funding issue, some of the other issues that we seem to see propping up, and wondering if we might just want to add that in.
I think we're open to adding that. I'm not sure and or is the right phrasing. I think it might be a separate recommendation to explore or work with agencies interested in forming a land trust. I think there's some conversation happening, a housing trust, I'm sorry, some conversations happening about that, but they would serve some very different purposes.
I agree. And I just didn't quite dawn on me that you were speaking more in the civil public sense until we got a little deeper into this. So I apologize for not bringing this up sooner.
If there's consensus, we can add that as a separate recommendation.
Yeah, that would be up to my colleagues, but I think more in the lines of some of the issues that we've seen, Edmonds Loft being a prime Edmonds Loft being an absolutely prime example of, we had to sort of, what we had to do was, because we don't have a housing trust, so it wasn't able to sort of be banked in the same way. So other than that change, or at least maybe addition, if my fellow council members will entertain that, that'd be something I'd be interested in. And yeah, just to expand on everything that's been said, I agree with everything that's been said. I've been a part of a couple different housing conversations in the past month, and I think exactly how this is being interpreted is it's coming up and it's percolating, and we're talking about seniors and how do we include seniors in some of our new definitions, and how can we encourage. And I would use the word encourage because it is very all-encompassing. And if that ever makes it to the work plan, encourage will be replaced by many other words, hopefully, that will have other associations with it. But I think those are all really important. So I'm happy to see them on here, and would just see if there's interest in adding housing trust as another opportunity that maybe, and it doesn't have to be on here. We can just also add it to the bike rack at a later date on its own if we so chose. So just throwing it out there.
Vice Mayor Klobstad.
Yeah, thank you. Again, enormous amount of work and data points here. So it's really interesting to see how this all falls into place. I appreciate Matt's comments. I too agree we have some great programs. This organization has been very inventive, and I would say even aggressive in finding opportunities to house our workforce. And I'm really proud of that. And this is another piece of that puzzle. I support all of these recommendations to cut to the chase. But to me, I would like to prioritize them a little bit because based on how much work we've already done in this arena, I think continuing to be the leader in this, of course, is kind of what everybody already expects. And I would really love to see the first priority be creating that potential local housing authority or housing trust. Because the rest of these recommendations, with the exception of 4.3, are really things that I think that entity should and could be doing more effectively, because we're talking about working with a lot of other jurisdictions and agencies. So that would be my only caveat. Yes, let's go forward with these. We'll put them on the bike rack. We'll decide all those recommendations later. But I would just like my fellow council members and staff to consider just kind of the order of which we might do these. I too have had many conversations when, coming down to 4.3, which I don't think fits within recommendation 1.1. I've had a lot of conversations about this. I've actually done a lot of thinking about it because there's some complexities there. Like, are we just creating more opportunities for retirees, or are we trying to create opportunities for our community members to move into that? I don't think it would be the intention or the desire for us to attract retirees to take advantage of our current housing program. So I just feel like that one's a little tricky. And while I think it's an important goal, we need to really think that through and also consider the fact that seniors have some unique needs that might be difficult for us to program into workforce housing opportunities. So those are my thoughts on the whole thing. I think the idea of the housing trust is a really interesting one. That's why I asked the question. I was like, okay, well, where would this exist? Who would be, managing it? Is it funding projects? Like there's a whole host of options and opportunities there. And I'm willing to consider all of the above.
Okay, thank you. I share the thoughts of Council Member Romack and Vice Mayor Klobstad on the seniors, sort of thinking it'd be better to look at existing residents, people who have worked here and want to be able to continue to live here after they've worked. I hadn't quite thought of Truckee as area that might be subsidizing retirement communities, kind of the way Reno does, but I guess it could happen. And so I share Vice Mayor Klofstad's concerns. Do we currently rank our bike rack items?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I
Mostly
heard the
because-
Vice Mayor, but I don't want to start. I'm disinclined to start ranking bike rack items, and I think Councilmember Pallavi's suggestion is enjoying a consensus that we are looking at a trust as well, a housing trust. So I think.
Can I add
go
one
ahead.
note?
Yeah.
Totally happy to include that on the list. I did in regional collaboration. I know there's an organization in Eastern Placer, the Housing Hub, that is talking about this, has been talking with the Truckee Donner Land Trust. So I know everybody's paying attention to everything, so maybe that's a collaborative effort if it fits with our needs. So I just wanted to highlight that. Again, that's exactly what I was talking about. Let's not do our own thing.
It might just be a separate bike rack item because it's not really a recommendation in this report anywhere. So I think for tonight's agenda, let's just table it and leave it off in the issue of efficiency, and hopefully staff will remember and just remind us when the work plan comes back.
We will do that.
Thank you.
And being ignorant of the details, to me, it's great. Get together with the Workforce Housing Agency and these other organizations, and let's reduce duplication of effort and try to find something consistent. I know that's no easy task, easier said than done. When I look at this report, though, I see it as primarily really coming back to the basic problem of the lack of housing overall, and it hurts the less your income, the more dire the circumstances. The higher percentage of people at the lower your income, higher percentage of people who have an unmet need for housing is greater, the lower the income, and that we need to continue to focus not on just trying to convert existing housing, but looking for ways to build new housing that addresses our low-income workers. Because otherwise it's protecting people who are at risk of discrimination, and that's more just advising about civil rights. We've talked about seniors. People with disabilities are protected by the ADA. I guess we have some responsibility to enforce and build according to the rules regarding that, but there's nothing for us to add to that. There were a lot of areas where I could see the need for improvement, but this is the first swing at the ball on equitable housing, equity in housing. I think you did a really excellent job.
Do you need a recommendation or motion from us, or do you have what you need?
Can we just get clarification on the direction? What I think we heard was support for the 5 recommended actions to be prioritized in the bike rack, consideration of adding a housing trust to the bike rack, but not adding that into the equity framework. And then earlier we had a recommendation from the mayor for adding a know your rights sort of informational civil rights effort to the equity framework. I didn't hear clear direction from other council members on whether you would like that to be added.
I personally think it's inferred in what we're doing here, so I don't think it needs to be specified, but if staff feels like that is a gap, then we should include it.
Yeah, I did not see it there. I saw that there was a community of interest, but there was no action being taken to protect them.
And I think we discussed that other organizations may do it, so including it in the equity framework and maybe highlighting the other organizations so we're not.
We don't have a problem doing that if it's more explicit. I would support that.
Great. So what more, Hillary?
I think that was it for clarity, and I think we could use a motion to accept or adopt. What was our action?
Accept.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the housing equity framework with all of those nice additions.
I'll second.
All those in roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Romack.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klovstad.
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie.
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi. And Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's left? Oh, we have 7.3. Let's go to 7.3.
Congrats,
Aaron, I'm
Laurel,
sorry, of course.
on your presentation. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Could we have a comfort break?
Aaron, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Give you a chance to set up. Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's take a break. Good idea. Session.
Good evening, Council. Nice to present to you one last time, and tonight I'm going to be sharing alongside Erin the proposed outline for the building electrification token program.
I'm sorry, Belinda. Mayor, is your mic still on? I hear some feedback. No? Is there? Okay.
It could have been me. Oh, there it is now.
Thank you, council member.
Okay. For a bit of background, earlier this year, the town updated its greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals, targeting a 40% reduction in community-wide greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and 80% reduction by 2040. As a part of the strategy to reduce these emissions, the town recently adopted an existing building decarbonization roadmap. The roadmap includes a short-term action to develop a program that leverages short-term rental tokens as a decarbonization incentive. This same program was included in the fiscal year 2025-26 Council Priorities Work Plan. In Truckee, the second largest contributor to community greenhouse gas emissions is residential energy use. Of that residential energy use, space and water heating alone account for more than 60% of total emissions. Electrification, especially replacing gas furnaces with heat pumps, is the single most impactful way to reduce residential emissions. The Building Electrification Token Program was developed in response to two intersecting trends. Truckee's residential heating equipment is aging and nearing replacement, and our community's greenhouse gas emissions remain heavily dominated by natural gas usage. We also know that financial incentives alone haven't driven meaningful adoption. Currently, only around 2% of furnace replacements are gas to electric conversions. However, community surveys have shown that over 20% of residents would definitely consider electrifying their heating systems. The Building Electrification Token Program therefore proposes an alternative incentive, a token that can be exchanged for access to a short-term rental certificate. The goal of the Building Electrification Program is to reduce community-wide greenhouse gas emissions by accelerating electrification of residential heating and water heating systems. Unlike a more traditional rebate-style incentive, this program is intended to leverage a low or no-cost incentive in the form of a token that can be redeemed for a transient occupancy registration certificate. A token is a transferable incentive that can be redeemed for, like I mentioned, a registration certificate, giving the holder prioritized access to short-term rental registration. Due to the town's cap on the number of allowed short-term rentals, there's currently a wait list of slightly over a year to receive a transient occupancy registration certificate. A token can be redeemed for a certificate immediately for otherwise eligible properties, allowing the holder to bypass the standard waitlist process. This type of incentive was first proposed as a part of the town's short-term rental workforce housing token pilot program, often referred to simply as the token program. The 3 token usage scenarios were previously approved by Council in development of the Workforce Housing Token Program. But as a recap, there are 3 main ways of using a token. A token can be redeemed for a transient occupancy registration certificate for any eligible short-term rental property. To do this, they would contact the town's short-term rental division and demonstrate that they meet all other short-term rental program requirements. Importantly, tokens must be initially redeemed within 36 months of issuance or they will expire. Tokens are also fully transferable, which means that if a homeowner does not want or is not able to operate the short-term rental themselves, they can sell the token to someone who can. Staff have already set up a process to manage these transfers through the Workforce Housing Token Program as well. The last token usage scenario is retrieval. Once a token has been redeemed and used to secure a registration certificate, the token holder can still retrieve the token by voluntarily giving up their certificate. This is useful if they want to apply the token to a different property, for example. Each token can be used on up to 2 different eligible short-term rental properties per year. And if a property that was using a token later receives a certificate through the regular waitlist process, that token could be retrieved and used again elsewhere or transferred to another person. This level of flexibility with the tokens is key to ensuring their real transferable value while staying within the town's broader short-term rental management framework. Again, for a more visual understanding of these processes, a token can be transferred up to 2 times per calendar year between short-term rental eligible properties and can be sold and transferred to new token holders. Okay. Sorry, one moment. Okay. To earn a token, staff suggest having applicants select from a mix of upgrades from a table of point-valued energy measures. Each energy measure is assigned a point value based on their equivalent greenhouse gas reduction potential. Greenhouse gas emissions reduction and associated points differ by building age, which means that older homes may need to implement less measures to achieve the same number of points as a newer home. To receive a token, a minimum point threshold must be met, which will also increase over time as a manner to incentivize earlier participation in the token program. Additionally, the minimum scores are designed so nearly all applicants must install at least one high-impact measure, like a heat pump space heater or a water heater. Homes built in 2011 and newer are not likely to see a significant enough saving in greenhouse gas emissions to meet the energy threshold, and were therefore not included in this outline. Staff recommend aligning applicant eligibility criteria to the extent feasible with what was already established under the Workforce Housing Token Program. So under the proposed guidelines, the Building Electrification Token Program would be open to owners of existing single-family residential buildings, including both detached single-family homes and townhomes, as well as condos. It's important to note that not all these property types are eligible for use as short-term rentals under our current code. So if an owner of a condo, for example, installs qualifying upgrades and earns a token, they cannot redeem it on that same property, but they can transfer it, meaning it could be sold to someone who does own an eligible short-term rental property. For manufactured and mobile homes, staff are recommending that those be excluded from eligibility at this time. The main reason is that both the eligible measures and their associated point values are based on studies of single-family homes and are not necessarily applicable to mobile and manufactured housing due to differences in the building structure and appliances that would be installed. Additional research would be needed to identify appropriate upgrades for this building type. Another key consideration when setting the eligibility is the potential impact on our long-term housing. This program is not designed to pull homes out of the long-term rental market, and we do not expect it to do so, but it can be disruptive to tenants and could lead to rent or utility cost increases. To minimize these potential impacts, staff propose that property owners currently participating in lease to locals or rooted renter programs be ineligible for the Building Electrification Token Program until the end of their program term. We also recommend requiring all applicants to disclose whether their property is currently or has recently been used as a long-term rental. This will help us monitor the program's interaction with the long-term housing goals of the town and allow us to assess for any unintended consequences as the program rolls out. Staff additionally propose giving applicants the option to submit a pre-application, which would confirm that their intended home energy upgrades would qualify them for a token. This would ensure their eligibility for the program and allow town staff to reserve a token for the applicant for a limited period of time as they install and complete the selected home upgrades. Staff propose issuing up to 15 tokens per year under the Building Electrification Token Program. Staff also recommend allowing redemption of tokens throughout the year to temporarily exceed the short-term rental cap, and then reconciling this to bring the total back under the cap during the annual short-term rental renewal process. So, for example, with the current cap of 1,255 short-term rental certificates, if 4 tokens are redeemed in a year, by the year end, there would be 1,259 active certificates. Assuming 50 active short-term rental properties exit the short-term rental program, only 46 new spots would be released from the wait list, rebalancing the total active certificates to 1,255.
Currently, Truckee's municipal code allows for issuance of tokens specifically for workforce housing programs. The proposed building electrification token program would require an amendment to allow council to approve use of tokens for programs supporting other council priorities, including greenhouse gas emissions reduction. If council approves this recommendation and directs staff to move forward with development of this new program, staff will also draft an ordinance with these recommended amendments for town council consideration in conjunction with the proposed building electrification token program guidelines. If council approves staff's recommendations, the next steps would be to develop a more detailed program proposal, including the program criteria, internal workflows, and integration with the short-term rental program registration process. As part of this program development, staff would engage with key stakeholders, including local contractors, Visit Truckee Tahoe, and property owners, and that engagement will be especially important to develop all the specific program criteria. As previously mentioned, staff would also develop a proposed municipal code amendment for council consideration, and then present those to council with a full program proposal in late 2025. And with that, our 2 recommended actions are to provide feedback on the proposed building electrification token program concept and direct staff to develop a final program proposal for town council consideration, and to direct staff to develop proposed amendments to the Town of Truckee Municipal Code to allow the town council to approve issuance of tokens for a broader range of programs outside of the original focus on workforce housing. And with that, we are happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Henderson, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you. The staff report on this was really great. I appreciate all the detail.
Okay, Councilmember Pallavi.
Yeah, staff, really great job in thinking this through. I have a lot of comments for deliberation that might derail a few things in this report, so I will hold those unless anybody wants to hear them before that in case it informs your questions. But other than that, I don't have any questions. Other than the fact that I guess I'll ask this one question and then try not to pepper any others. But what happens if there isn't a wait list? How are we creating value out of a token? And my question was really like when we were looking at those dollar amounts, I guess to be clear, there looked like a huge range of dollar amounts that could earn you a token. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair question or assumption?
Sure. So regarding the dollar amounts, yes, because this is a flexible sort of program structure, particularly because not all eligible homes would have the same set of measures that they would need to do, particularly when it comes to the efficiency upgrades. There is a very large range of potential costs associated with doing those eligible upgrade measures. The value of a token is also highly variable depending on the use that an owner wants. If the token holder wants to use it for multiple properties and try to maximize the value of it, and also how, we have a high variability in terms of across our short-term rental properties in terms of how many days per year they are rented out or nights per year and the sort of revenue they get. And so both that upfront cost and the value, financial value of a token vary significantly based on that property. And so the other part of your question which is kind of very central to this program. What happens if there isn't a wait list? Well, the idea of a token is contingent on there being a wait list and on the current structure of our short-term rental regulations. As long as there is a wait list, a token still has value. So in the future, if there was not a wait list, then we would obviously need to revisit the existence of this program.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. You can kind of see where I'm going to be going during deliberation, maybe.
Does anybody want to hear more from our councilman in order to help frame your questions? No, you've heard enough from them. Okay,
Can I just
we'll wait.
ask
Okay. Sure.
Mayor, can I just ask what our current wait list is? I know it's always kind of fluid, and we've asked this a few times. I know we've sort of always had one, but what is it at right now?
It's about 14 months or so a bit over a year wait list.
Sorry, I meant how many people are actually on that wait list?
I'd have to pull that up. I think it's in the 200 range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council Member Roman.
I just want to, so with this program, I think I heard you say you would submit a pre-application and a token could be reserved while you're making the upgrades, and you'd have 36 months to then finish them before you'd be able to redeem the token?
So we haven't yet proposed a specific reservation time. That's something that we would want to do additional engagement with both contractors and our building division to figure out what a reasonable time frame is for the necessary permits and work to be done. The 36 months is how the current token program works, that once you are issued a token, you have to initially redeem it within those 36 months or it does expire.
Got it. Thank you. That's it.
Vice Mayor Klostad.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. So this, so far anyway, it seems to me like this is something that could be decided, but it's silent on whether or not this process could or is still requiring the homeowner to hold their house for 1 year before they apply for an STR.
Correct. All other requirements for short-term rentals would apply. So for new purchases of homes, they would still have that 1 year cooling off period. This is specific just to the wait list component.
I do know some homes have more than one gas-fired furnace. Is this going to be, or are you proposing that this is specific to per home or per furnace operation?
So the numbers are based on a single furnace electrification with a heat pump, but I believe the assumptions were assuming, were for a single heating system for that home. I think we don't have, that is what we're basing it on for now. So just replacement of one gas furnace with one heat pump. I don't know how common that scenario is in Truckee and if we would encounter it, but that's what we were considering with this proposal. If that's something council has input on, we will certainly take that into account as we develop those full guidelines.
And then gas cooking appliances are not included because they don't contribute significant GHG, I'm assuming?
Correct. The numbers were quite small.
I think also a big reason was that if there's turnover of a property, that's something that's much harder for staff to ensure that electric appliance would stay in place. That's something that's much more likely to be replaced, personal preference.
And it's not necessarily an upgrade that requires a permit.
Yeah.
So it's harder for us to track. But heating systems are pretty significant upgrades to implement, and so it's a lot more work to undo a recent upgrade and a lot higher cost than a different appliance.
Great, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, if I understand correctly, this program would not increase the total number of tokens because you'd adjust at the end of the year.
It would not increase the total number of short-term rentals.
I'm sorry, short-term rentals.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. And it doesn't impair the basic token program for deed restricted housing.
It shouldn't have any impact on that program. No.
Okay. Is the downside the staff time required to work on it?
It does require some initial investment. We did give an estimate to develop those program criteria. In terms of ongoing staff time support, because it is a very low volume program, it's not going to be a significant drain on our staff time.
Okay. What is the downside, if any, in terms of community benefit or impact to the town operation?
I think the downside, well, this is a new type of program, and we don't, there's a lot of unknowns, obviously, in terms, as we mentioned earlier. We don't know what the value of a token is. We don't necessarily know how valuable this particular proposal will be to the community, and that's because we haven't yet had a token program, a home complete the process of our existing token program either. And so I think what we are expecting is that we will, if council approves this program, we will propose program criteria, kind of evaluate the interest and participation, and possibly propose changes to adjust. But
okay, so if I understand, what some might consider a downside would be a person's ability for a minimal investment in terms of retrofitting the house to have a heat pump heating. They might be able to turn around and sell the token for multiples of their investment.
potentially,
Okay.
we won't really know what the market is for tokens until we see our first sale.
Yeah. Or the token might have no value.
Correct. And I think the biggest risk is for property owners that are not interested in directly using the token themselves.
Yeah.
That is it is a big risk if that value has not been proven.
Okay. In which case they don't participate in the program.
Correct. I think that will be the case for many, if there is not yet a proven value on the market for
Which leads to my final question. What kind of interest have you found in the program?
For the
participants.
And the housing, for the housing, workforce housing piece, we've had 2 applications, but I think it was 3 units. 1 dropped out, and the other applicant we think is probably dropping out, and we haven't had communication back from them in the recent past.
In terms of this program, the one that would be for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, I understand there was some interest from the contractor community.
So we've talked with some property managers and realtors through Visit Truckee Tahoe, and there was some interest that one of the realtors did say they think this is a program they could easily sell to many of their clients. It is a very low volume program, so there doesn't necessarily need to be widespread interest and participation because it would be limited as proposed to 15 tokens per year. So we have heard some initial interest. Some of that, we will, if council approves our recommendation to move forward with developing a full proposal, we would do additional engagement to try to better determine that level of interest.
Thank you, Erin. Now we'll go to public comment, if that's okay. All right. Time for any public comment. Anyone in the audience want to make a comment? Seeing no one, we'll come back for council deliberation. Why don't we go ahead and start with you, Councilmember Pallavi?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to offer that anyway. So I want to say that I guess there's clearly been an incredible amount of thought that went into this program to improve on the token program. And I absolutely want to commend you for the level of detail that you put into this staff report, because it made it really clear to me exactly kind of what we're trying to affect change on. And I think the first thing that came to my head was, if we really want to affect change and see things like this move forward, I believe a much broader program with significant financial rebate is what's going to move the needle at the end of the day. My second comment is going to be that if the status quo remains as it pertains to the STR program and the wait list and the permits, and we don't want a bigger program and everything is exactly the way it is today as we expect it to be in 2 years, then I can totally support this program as well. With all of that said, I'm fairly hopeful and expectant that it is not going to be the same. I think we're slightly ahead of ourselves, and I would like my fellow council members to provide your feedback. But if I end up getting outvoted on this one, at the very minimum, ask you to wait to do any more work until we have the final framework of the short-term rental revision program done, because I think that we need to be cognizant of what's happening and how all of this is going to interplay to determine sort of what happens next. And I feel like if we were to provide direction on this right now, it's going to be incomplete, and we're going to have stumbling blocks when short-term rentals come before us in the next few months. So I want to be really clear about that I just think the timing of this staff report is just slightly off, but we wanted to honor Belinda because it's her last meeting. And so we're trying to get it all together. So I'm trying to be there with all of you. I was a big proponent of the first token program. I'm going to be the first person to say it hasn't resulted in much of anything. We spun our wheels a ton to get it into place. And I think local government does not belong in creating private markets for anything. And I'm just going to leave that right there. A token could have a $5 value to somebody, could have $1 million value to the next person. And we're going to end up with just a really odd way of what this even looks like. And I don't think we're going to end up getting the changes that I think some of our more GHG reduction proponents want to see at the end of the day, which is why I would rather just support a broader program with way more impact, if we're really going to do something like this and not restrict us to a certain number of tokens, and we got to trade tokens, and we got to make a market for tokens, and then we got to figure out what to do with my token because I did this $10, minimal upgrade, but that guy did a huge upgrade, and it just doesn't sit right at all with me right now. I don't think it's clear to the property owner what value they're going to end up getting after any incentive. And I think just local government does better with really clear, really precise sort of hey, you do this, you get this. Done. Thank you. Sign the paper. Let's all move on. So that's sort of where I'm at in a nutshell. The wait list is the largest thorn in the short-term rental community's side for a lot of different reasons. There is a demand today to get off that wait list sooner. So I think that's why I say under today's conditions, we might see something else. But what I implore you all to do at the very minimum is just at the minimum, pause this and let us get through the short-term rental process and see where this ends up sitting in that process, either as an incentive or some of the other things that some of us are talking about and trying to work through in terms of how do we better align the short-term rental process to achieve exactly the same things that we've been talking about with greenhouse gas emissions and housing. It's how do we utilize the housing stock that we have to its highest and best ability and start to move from maybe a random assortment of people getting short-term rental certificates into a more precise way of looking at our housing stock and assigning value to that housing stock. That's just a little bit of a cheater to what we're moving forward towards, or at least in my opinion, I'd like to see us move forward towards. And again, like, that is no disservice to this program that you put in front of us, because it is insanely well thought out. I know I've said that multiple times, and you did an amazing job. I'm just asking for some time if this is something you want to proceed with. I would rather proceed with taking the framework of this program, removing the token aspect of it entirely, and just creating a really great incentive program that achieves the goals we're trying to achieve. Done. Thank you.
Councilmember Romack.
Sure. Thank you for those comments. That did drive a question on, reviewing updates to our STR framework. I heard a couple of months from you, Councilmember Pallavi. Is that something staff were thinking in the next few months, or just, is there any sort of timeline we should be thinking about, since I heard a pause?
Yeah, we don't. I think we're working with VTT on the timing of that. It would be, our goal would be before the end of the year, but I can't give you exact date at this moment. They've got transition happening as well, so.
Got it. Thank you. And then, sorry, one other question, and I think this was asked in our council questions. Staff is working on creating a heat pump incentive program, correct?
Correct. The direction we received from council regarding the heat pump air conditioning incentive program was both to encourage heat pump air conditioners, which would be dual fuel systems, as well as further incentivize full system electrification. So that is that development of that program is currently underway. As it is structured, it would be a much more traditional rebate system that would not have a points-based structure.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I think I echo the comments from Councilmember Pallavi of great work on staff, and I know this was something council asked for. I will say I was struggling a little bit with reducing greenhouse gas emissions is one of our council goals. So I not struggling with that. We want to work to do that. But I guess the alignment with a token STR program, I think the workforce housing, we know STRs may displace workforce housing, so incentivizing workforce housing through a token program, there's more of a nexus. So that was something I was a little bit, again, even though I know we kind of asked for this, is this the best method to incentivize some of these measures? And I think that's where I'm more in alignment with you, Councilmember Pallavi, of more straight incentive based. It seems like we're trying to do too much with a program that maybe doesn't make complete sense. So where I'm at now is I'm fine waiting, seeing what potential STR changes or things we might be looking at, and if it makes sense or not, to continue down a path of exploring something like this. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I would add, I appreciate your unwillingness to commit to a date. I would say that at least internally at VTT, we would love to see something before the November 1st renewal period starts. We'd at least like to have a framework done by then. So I'll at least hesitantly commit to that, even though we're not really quite there yet, but I'll throw that out there.
It's good to have a goal to work towards.
I'll go ahead and jump in at this point. Interesting discussion. Thank you very much for that. It's a little difficult, though, for me to pause a program that I've been so excited about and working towards for a long time, especially when what you're talking about isn't agendized. So I can't even really, I can't talk about it. I can't ask about it. That's a little frustrating. And I do just want to clarify that this is not adding any STRs. So we're not taking away workforce housing. I get the nexus that we had for creating workforce housing, because that's a huge goal for this council. this is also another huge goal that impacts our entire community. And not just the greenhouse gas emissions that so few people can see and many people don't even understand. This impacts our ability to stay in our homes because it can impact the affordability. It impacts the ability of our community to continue to exist in the way that it does with skiing tourism and other outdoor activities, because we are looking at some significant potential threats to our climate and to our existence up here due to that. We all, maybe it's been a little too long since we saw the Truckee Resilience Plan, but it's pretty serious. So this, to me, is still a really top goal, a very important goal. The way that you guys have developed this program, it's all carrots and no sticks. And that was the challenge that we ran into during the general plan process and the resistance of forcing this. So this is not forcing anybody to do it. It's giving them the opportunity to gain something for doing something that they might do anyway. And that there's also all sorts of programs and assistance and rebates out there to do. It's not taking away any of those other opportunities. I really like how you're mirroring this to an existing program so that really minimizes the staff lift in order to implement this program. So that's logical. We already invested all that time and energy into our housing deed restriction program, which we can all admit did not create the results that we wished. But this would be another way to leverage that work, in my eyes. I would also argue that this is a much easier threshold than deed restricting a property. So I think it's going to be significantly more attractive. I think that this program is something that is really worth trying. I see these paths as parallel. This isn't going to hold up the STR revisions, and the STR revisions don't need to hold this up either. I think there's an opportunity for these to work together, and I would really ask that our council continue to move forward with this in that vein, because I think it's really a low threshold that could have some really significant results. I also think another way that we could make this even more attractive is if one of the other benefits was taking away that 1 year threshold. I think that's a trigger that we could pull if we're not seeing the interest and excitement about this. But boy, if we could convert 13 homes or 15 homes a year, that's a pretty significant GHG reduction. Alternatively, if we want to fund it, $20,000 per home, 13,000 homes, we could just, find $260 million and convert them all. But we don't have that. But this is a way to get us closer. So I'm really still very supportive of this. I hope my fellow councils will continue to move us forward.
Okay. I can't remember if we heard from Councilmember Henderson. Not yet. Oh, okay. Councilmember.
Not yet.
Okay, but are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I absolutely understand and respect Councilmember Pallavi and Councilmember Romack, some of the issues that you both raised. I will say that I'm generally in agreement with Vice Mayor Klostad on this. I do think that these things can move forward concurrently, what's before us tonight and STR revisions. To me, this is really about designing different types of incentives and a different way of doing things using that carrot, not the stick mentality. I know that our current token program hasn't been successful in the way that we had initially hoped, but this is a different iteration of it. And I think if we've done, something really incredibly well as a council, it's embrace innovation and try new things and be willing to see, how they bear out in our community and in the market. And there is not a tremendous resource lift required with this, as opposed to a more traditional incentive or rebate program to get this deeper electrification in homes, which would be much, much more costly. And I'll just say quite candidly, with everything that's happening in the federal administration right now, it's incumbent upon us as local leaders now more than ever to be investing in environmental stewardship and mitigating the very real impacts of our changing climate. And so I do think we can achieve objectives with this, but we're not going to know unless we try. So I still think we should try. I still think we should move this forward tonight.
Okay, I agree with Councilor Member Pallavi that it's not going to be clear to property owners what they're getting with the token. And so I do imagine this program may not get a lot of reception, and it may just be property managers who have the sophistication and the financial motivation to try and connect property owners with the program or invest in it themselves. So that's part of the reason I was anxious to know how much staff time would be required, because I am concerned that it may not yield the program may not yield very much, but staff telling me it's not a lot of time. So this is a bit of a low lift. We're taking a chance on maybe getting up to that quantum of energy, that quantum of involvement, where we'll start seeing something closer to an exponential interest in people in doing this, because I feel like we're still struggling for templates for homeowners. It's just not out there enough. It's still just too new. It's not clear to me. I am assuming that we can have a much broader program, and we will. And so I don't see this as interfering with that. So I'd like to hear from Councilmember Pallavi why you feel this might, if you feel this might prevent a broader program in the future. And then what are the stumbling blocks that concern us, and why can't staff proceed on this now? Because actually they don't have an ordinance for us yet. They still have to do it. It sounds like it might be very close to when we're doing an STR update. And if it comes along sooner, I lean towards what Vice Mayor Klofstad said and Councilmember Henderson. Let's get this thing going. So what are the stumbling blocks? I think that's... yeah, why do we have to get through the STR process first, and what are the stumbling blocks?
I think one thing that I'm most concerned with is developing a program based on a wait list that, I'll just say it, I don't know if we're going to have a wait list a year or two from now. And so that's my concern. Okay. So one of the things that I'd like to solve for in the short-term rental revision conversation is the wait list issue. And we can keep the wait list and keep a program like this, but I think there is a better use of why we're making people wait on a wait list. Without getting too far into the conversation or even getting ahead of myself on certain things that we don't have full buy-in yet on some of this stuff. But it's a resource issue is what I'm saying, is basically what I'm saying is like, I'm totally that's why I said, if everything is status quo and exactly the same as it is today in a year from now, then I'm totally supportive of this program. I'm hopeful that it's not with regards to the short-term rental framework. And that's why I'm telling you, I think this program has a ton of merit, and I'm more than willing to create as many incentives and tokens and other things as possible. But to me, I don't want to spin staff's wheels for 6 months and then 4 months from now be like, hey, we're going to bring you back a proposal that gets rid of the wait list. That's a win-win potentially for everybody, and we're moving backwards. So if you're more in alignment,
you don't even, you just said it, you don't have buy-in on this. So you're asking us to pause a program
right, yes,
without
I'm not
you
I'm not
knowing-
asking you to pause the program.
pause development of a program.
I am because
that's what's
I'm-
really hard for me.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
This just seems like a really big ask. And
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
And we're flying blind. That makes me very uncomfortable, especially with a program that we've already invested so much into.
And that's why I don't care. You can move it forward. Like, it's not going to be any skin off my back. I'm very wary of creating a program that is based on something that is inherently has a value today that may or may not have a value in the future. And so how much staff time do we want to spend to try to create a market when I'm fully on board with everything you want to do? I'm fully on board with the results of this program.
I think we heard you.
I just don't like the mechanism.
And I understand that. And
Totally.
But I will also just say, even if all we get is the first year and we get 15, that's 15 more than we have. And what we really need now is multi-leveled attack on this, because we don't have enough contractors that are interested in this work. We don't have enough people that are interested in this transition, and we need to create those success stories. And this is a great way to do that, even if all we get is 15.
Okay.
Can I ask a question that maybe will help with the conversation? I appreciate your interest in kind of protecting the limited staff capacity we have, and I think that's what we're hearing from you is, should we be spending the staff time developing this? But I also think, Councilmember Pallavi, that in your first round of comments, you mentioned that you would be supportive of taking the token piece out of this and just having it be a townwide incentive program. And I feel like if that's what you're trying to communicate as an alternative, maybe that's not being presented in the discussion. We're focused so much on the short-term rental token piece when there's a lot of missing pieces of information. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, or if we're just saying it's fine if there's three of you. I can't quite tell if there's consensus to move this forward or not. So I'm trying to help.
I thought I made myself clear. I support the program. I don't support it being based on the token type of incentive right now, today. That's all I'm saying.
I think we have at least 3 votes to move forward, and I think those same 3 votes are looking to a broader incentive program down the road.
And I fully support a broader incentive program too. I think that's where my struggle is, tying it to tokens.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I would love to make a motion if we could bring that back up. So I think we've provided our feedback, and I move that we direct staff to develop proposed amendments to the Town of Truckee Municipal Code to allow the Town Council to approve issuance of tokens for a broader range of programs outside of the original focus on workforce housing.
Second?
I'll second.
Is that a second from Councilmember Henderson? Okay.
Yes, it was.
Roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Romack.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you repeat the motion, please, Kelly? Do you have?
I have Vice Mayor Klofstad making the motion and Councilmember Henderson seconding.
Do you have the motion?
Oh.
Direct staff to propose the amendments?
Yeah.
Or is that?
And develop the program.
Yeah,
and
and
make sure
develop
that's
it.
clear. Okay.
Okay. Councilmember Romack.
No.
Vice Mayor Klofstad.
Yes.
Mayor Zabriskie.
Yes.
Councilmember Pallavi.
No.
And Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
I have the vote passing 3-2.
Great. Okay. What's left is council reports at 7:55 p.m. Who wants to jump in first? Councilmember Romack.
Sure. I'll jump in first. In my report, also, just to start, you started off this meeting honoring a community member. I did just want to highlight, and highlight is not the right word, but the passing of Dave Mencarelli, who was on the radio station, and he actually took over for me as the morning show host when I left. And he was a super great guy, and so just wanted to honor him too as a community member who entertained us and made us all laugh. So thank you. Outside of that, what have I been up to? Variety of things. We had the River Revitalization Steering Committee back on July 8th. We did move forward with the action plan. Is that what the name of it was? R2SC?
R3 Playbook.
R3 Playbook. Thank you. I get lost in, but agreement on that. So that will be coming forward to council. So that was great. Again, a great process. I participated along with Councilmember Pallavi in Congressman Kiley was here in town. We were celebrating the removal of the public lands for sale portion of action in Congress. And I do thank Councilmember Pallavi, fellow staff, and we had a wide range of folks from the community thanking Congressman Kiley, but also continuing to push on we need more. It's great they're not for sale, but we still need support in funding and a lot of other things. So it was a good opportunity to remind him to continue to look out for that. Let's see. I attended the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, had a Cultivating Communities workshop, which is their whole big action plan around housing. I know we had Lynn there from our staff, and it was just an opportunity to hear other things different communities are looking at around housing. And it was great to see Lynn there. Again, just the regional collaboration among entities. Speaking of regional collaboration, also attended the Tahoe Summit last week, which was down on the South Shore. Jeremy Renner, the actor, was the keynote speaker. Not as inspiring as Pete Buttigieg last year, but still nice. Senator Schiff hosted the event. So again, it was another great celebration of collaboration, protecting our environment. So that was great. And then also had the pleasure of chatting with Senator Schiff a little bit the next day. He was in Tahoe City, dedicating the now what is known as the Dianne Feinstein West Shore Tahoe Trail. So now the West Shore is officially the Dianne Feinstein Trail, but it was great, again, to have the senator paying attention to our region and again, highlighting a lot of environmental challenges we face. So that was great. And that's about it, besides having a blast in a fabulous summer.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. With Vice Mayor Postad, I participated in the California Climate and Energy Conference. We were there, just a few weeks ago down in San Jose, and it was an amazing panel with folks from Sierra Business Council, really to highlight everything that we're doing as a relatively small rural mountain community as it pertains to our climate work and what we're doing throughout the region. It was a really well-attended session. I think we had about 80, 90 people in the session, and just went really well. We had a lot of folks coming up to us afterwards and really asking, how do we do this in our jurisdiction, and looking to Truckee as a role model for this work. So I'm thrilled that we got to share that out with folks who came from all over the state. So that was wonderful. I think for Truckee, it was a huge win. Let's see. The other thing, it's not sort of something I've participated in yet, but I did want to highlight because it relates to the climate work that we are all doing, things we've been talking about tonight. In late July, the EPA has announced a formal proposal to rescind the 2009 greenhouse gas endangerment finding. And I just want folks to really be aware of it. This is would be one of the most significant regulatory reversals in recent history as it pertains to climate action. It would repeal all greenhouse gas emission standards for light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty vehicles and engines. And it really rescinds the prior findings from 2009 that greenhouse gas emissions from new motor vehicles and engines contribute to air pollution, which can endanger public health and welfare. As a community, we've just been so deeply committed to reducing our emissions to protect and preserve our environment and our public's health. So this repeal, it doesn't just jeopardize climate investments at the federal level, it also jeopardizes the work and investments that we have all made as a community. I wanted to let folks know that the EPA is conducting a virtual hearing on this on August 19th, 20th, and possibly the 21st as well. And registration to testify closes today. So if you are interested in this, I encourage you to register to testify. I have registered and I will be testifying as part of this hearing, because this really will be so detrimental to communities throughout the nation if this happens. And that's it for my council report.
Okay, Councilmember Pallavi.
I didn't know we were going to go into the slew of federal regulations being reversed, but we can add the roadless rule and lots of other fun regulations to
I'm
that
equally
too.
as worried about that one.
All good. I'm not going to go there. Mine, we did a ribbon cutting at Cultural Threads, wonderful little shop downtown right near Burger Me, just to the east of Burger Me. We met with Congressman Kiley, had a little event here with him, and I met with a couple other recreation groups and other folks working on some of the Forest Service work in town. Met with Stacy Caldwell. We had a great meeting with Jonathan Cook Fisher, who is the Forest District Supervisor here on the Tahoe, and a bunch of other sort of recreation and federal linkage types of conversations here as well. So that's about it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Klostad.
Yeah, Councilmember Henderson already covered our California Climate and Energy Forum with SBC. Really enjoyed that. We had a Civic Well board meeting where the organization reported out the success of the CCEC forum. We had record number of registrants and record number of sponsors, and a big reason why, just for people's interest, that we now have 7 regional energy networks in the state of California, and all 7 of them were sponsors and participants in that forum. So that's pretty exciting. Attended the July 11th Climate Transformation Alliance quarterly meeting where Kate Gordon spoke at length about utilizing our public lands for carbon sequestration, as well as just kind of the closed loop system that we really need to create here in California. I spent some time with Anna Roth, the new president and CEO of Tahoe Forest Hospital. So it was great to get to know her a little bit, welcome her to our community. And then I also attended a Cat Pack mixer, which was really interesting. And I think my big takeaway there is we still have a lot of opportunity for the town and for CAT to help inform their members and the community about our organizational assessment, the Air Diamond report, and the work that has commenced to work towards some solutions that were reached or recommendations that were reached in those assessments. So I know we're continuing to work on that. It was just another reminder of we've got, it's going to be a long process, and it's all good. That's it.
Okay, I got to judge the 4th of July floats. I know, big deal, yeah. Mayor Manager's breakfast down in Nevada City. There was the Good Morning Truckee event earlier in July, and then I attended a number of private meetings as well as one public meeting on the homeless action plan. And with that, we can adjourn at 8:05. Yeah, that's the... Yeah, oh, right, the gavel.